we are approaching the 1 year mark, which will take place on Saturday, and very excited for tomorrow, which is Thanksgiving. So hopefully you won't lose any money as markets are closed. Markets also close a little early on Friday at 1 p.m. I am very afraid, Luz, to ask, why does your profile say NSFW? What did you do?
I can't imagine there's any real reason for that to be a thing.
If I
I think
click
it's
on that,
fake news.
oh
It's gotta
no.
be fake news. Yeah.
All right.
Hey, we got a good trade to share. Huh?
Oh, do you?
What do you think about that? Well, not
I'd
me.
love,
Actually, somebody
please.
up here. Yeah. Do y'all want to wait a bit till we get closer to the 1,000 mark?
Okay, I'm very curious.
Oh,
By
yes.
curious even. So, anyways, let's bring a couple more people up here.
Oh, wait. Bill Wong is a sex status symbol. That's why my picture is
Oh.
NSFW.
Makes sense. Too sexy for Reddit.
Has nothing to do with the porn stars.
Nothing to do with the porn stars or the gangbang time talk or all the mentions of cock or sex or butthole pleasures. None of that. No, definitely not.
All right, very glad that we're keeping this safe for work. So Dick's Sporting Goods, and Grindr.
You say Dick's?
What? Oh no, I meant what's a company that rhymes with Dick's?
Richard's Sporting Goods would be the go-to, right?
X, like the lighter company?
Yes, whatever that is, yes. But I assume that there's also other companies to talk about, some that might even be worth trading. And
Yes, we got a good one. So yesterday, for those who weren't present, we shared some very sad news. Opinion, are we done with GameStop?
We are done with GameStop.
We're done with GameStop.
But the Reddit talks.
Yeah. Okay. So it's true. The rumors are true. But we were also given a tad bit of grief over a lack of women and a lack of a female presence in trades in the sub. So today, I'd like to bring up a very fine woman, of course, from WallStreetBets. Queen of Hearts has a trade she wants to share, and she thinks that the sub is lacking a female presence and good trades. I believe she's here to address both of those issues. So, Queen, would you like to take it away?
Yeah, I have a play. I'm gonna sell at the money calls on GME, collect a sizable premium, roll the monthly calls until assigned, following stock price up or down. And then I'm going to keep the short calls at the money. And if I'm assigned, I'm going to hold the shares until it goes bankrupt. Thank you.
So a nice short play on the stock that we just removed.
Yeah, so the reason I wanted to come up here was to ask why we removed it.
Because people who were talking about GMEs were overwhelmingly assholes.
How about this? Before you talk about GameStop, you have to give us a play on a different stock. So if you have a question, give us a play on something else in the stock market. There's 8,700 other tickers to choose from, and then ask your question.
Okay, thanks for answering, Opinion. You can go ahead and kick me. I don't know how to do this.
What? Did I just get scammed out of a play? Damn it.
Talk about she's shorting a stock until it goes bankrupt. That was the play. I just wanted to celebrate the women here in WallStreetBets since we were getting slack about that.
Yeah, no worries. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is very important here. That's why the mod team is entirely women. Speaking of which, is DEI even like really a metric that investors use? There's a lot of noise being made recently about ESG not being what it's hyped up to be, and just a complete waste of time. So I wonder if the same is true for DEI.
Yeah, I think Luce was talking about this. I think Luce and I were both talking about this earlier about how ESG is just the shiny object in the room for fund managers and, people in the industry to sell.
Queen, how much fee rate you paying to short gamer stock?
We didn't catch that.
How much fee rate is paying Queen to short GME?
What?
Can we get an interpreter here?
None.
He's
Nothing.
saying
No.
what's the rate being paid to short GameStop?
No, how much is she being paid to say to short GameStop, right? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, that's true.
I paid her in sexual favors, actually.
Oh, that's gross.
All right.
I can translate that.
Too far there, Loose.
Whoa.
I think he
Let's
said
get
kill
some-
Carl icon.
Yeah, I got that NSFW icon. Hey, why don't we get to trades, huh?
Yes, I like the sound of that. Let's get to trade.
There was a incident in China at a major Apple factory. I don't know how that protest is going to affect Apple's supply chain. I know we're feeling the squeeze. Just working here at Verizon, trying to get these phones.
Oops, sorry, go ahead, Edition.
Yeah, just trying to get these phones in. So maybe short term Apple.
All right, Edition, what the heck is going on in the background?
This is that's one of those antique cars you have to like crank with a rod.
No,
He's
he's
in
at
the
a
casino
10D,
right
he's at
now.
a 10D printing press. Obviously.
I'm very suspicious of what's going on over there. I don't know.
I'm gonna mute myself until I get done doing what I'm doing. But I'm donating plasma. I'll be back.
I believe he's using a sat phone.
Oh no. He said he's donated plasma. He's fine.
He'll be back in a few seconds.
So I'm gonna be
sorry,
going.
guys. I think that was me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, anyway, I'm gonna be going in the Beyond play. If you have not seen those warehouses, then boy, you will be beyond yourself. With puns aside, I'll be going into put position November 25th, going for the $12 put, and then I'm also gonna be buying weeklies in December for the put side.
Wait, was this what stock? What ticker?
BYND.
I know we're not discussing GME anymore, but as of last night, whatever. But can I ask one question without getting fucking destroyed?
We are discussing GME on the Reddit talks if you've got something interesting, but go ahead.
It honestly, it's not interesting. I'm just trying to get the whole scoop because the conversation last night was so convoluted. I didn't know what was going on. So can anyone like inform me or? Like,
Yeah, I believe there's
give
a
me-
recording of the talk from yesterday you can go listen to.
Yeah, for those who are not familiar,
4 hours. Come on, man.
it was almost 5 hours actually. Like, what the heck?
It was a long time opinion. We hung out.
Yeah, it was 5 hours. Come on, guys.
It was after I got off
was
work.
really
and it was
recorded. You can listen
bullshit,
to it.
but
You can listen to it. You can listen to the recording. It's literally
What's the
there for
stock
you.
play?
All right, moving on. Yes, whoever said what's the stock play, I like you.
Yo, good morning, guys.
the stock play
I've
is
come in here.
Carvana.
Oh, sorry.
Did I hear Carvana?
I heard a Carvana.
I did. So basically,
Carvana.
Who was the guy that started talking?
Well,
Did you have a play before people started cutting you off?
I'm sorry. I'm playing Carvana right now.
up, down, sideways. What are you doing?
Thank you for sharing. How are you playing Carvana?
Let me see here. What? So I'm a poor. I'm sorry, but I only have like 150 into it. I know it's at like 675 as of last night.
Yeah, it's trading at $7.27 right now, pre-market. So it's
Oh,
up.
it went up.
Closed
Oh,
at,
shit.
It closed at 680. So something's going on.
I like it. All right. Gonna just keep doing my thing. So I'm retarded. Everybody else is. So.
Whoever
Do you
was
have
talking.
do you have calls or shares or puts? What is your thing that you're doing that was so oh wow?
It's not even an oh wow thing. I'm just, dude, I'm a poor investor. Come on now.
Yeah, I think it's more of just that it's at an all-time low, so it's like,
All right,
can
well,
it go wrong?
Right.
for
It's like
sharing.
it's for the poors. Come on.
Is it
I
just me
still
or
don't.
is everyone talking slow?
I still don't know what to do. Am I buying shares here?
You should
Oh,
be
well,
shorting the
that's
shit out of Carvana. I mean, that's the only way to make
Just
money.
keep
They're
buying
going to
Nintendo.
zero.
You'll be okay.
Hey,
All right.
Watt Geek or whatever your name is. You were
Yeah.
mentioning the railroad play last night. Could you
Yeah.
speak to that, please?
I was trying to get some information. The news article came out last night saying that it looks like they're not going to take that agreement and the strike is back on. Does anybody know anything there? I tried to talk about this 30 days ago and so you guys told me no. So 30 days later, it's time to talk about it.
So I don't know anything. I'm retarded, and that's that. But when the tax returns come out and people start like buying cars they can't afford, they're gonna go to Carvana. Like, come on. Tell me they're not.
No, they're not.
Carvana's
They're
not going to be around in another 6 months. I mean, everybody knows that. But that's your thesis, is that Carvana is going to be a place to go to buy cars all of a sudden?
It's not gonna be all of a sudden. It's just gonna be for like the tax returns people, like the people that have 4 kids and don't have any money, and they get like
no.
People
$7,000
that want to go buy their car
Come
to
on
ghetto
now.
cars.
Those people will go to marketplace and buy cars from people who sell used cars. They're not going to go to Carvana and overpay. No, that's not going to happen.
Well, I guess in my experience, I've seen like 3 different people do that have been like poor as shit, and they're just like, oh, I have a bunch of kids, I'm gonna go to Carvana and get a car, and they did that and they got repossessed. So I'm like, there's gonna be a big uptick, and then boom.
If that was the case, Carvana would
Those
be making money right
those people are going to end up at the buy here, pay here lots, not Carvana.
Well, yeah, they're gonna end up there. That's the thing. End up there, not start there. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's where they're going to take their money straight from their tax return, because they don't even have to file their taxes. They just give these people their tax return.
Can we
and
keep the commentary low? I don't have any plays, and Thursday
like
market's closed.
Hold on. I don't know why we're talking about Carvana. You guys asked me about the railroad strike. I went and Googled the shit. Let's see. Let's go. Let me Google with you guys. America faces a possible rail.
All right. You guys are just, like, enough. Just getting too crazy.
Here's a play.
What?
U.S. Steel, December 16, 25 puts for 95 cents or less. U.S. Steel is currently at Gamma Max, and the last 4 times it's done this, it went down on the order of about 8% within 4 weeks.
It's a good play, Hardy.
That's expected to go up, though, right?
This is a reaction to Gamma Max, and it's based off of past reactions to Gamma Max. There may be a fundamental reason, demand for steel, for example, that may hurt U.S. That may act as the bull case for U.S. steel. But I do want to point out that China is waking up from their COVID slumber, so presumably Chinese foundries are coming back online, which will mean more competition for U.S. steel.
Which is at what, $40 a foot per cargo package, I think.
No idea. I don't buy industrial steel.
Sorry, I'm just spouting off shit, but whatever. I'm retarded, like I said.
Hey, can we like mute him, bring him to the audience?
Nah, he's gone. All right.
I think
who's got other plays?
Hey, good morning, guys. Oh, you can go.
Back to wait, are you gonna talk?
Yeah, so next one, I'm looking at BTU, which is E-body energy. Similarly, December 16, 28.50 puts. Want to try to get in at $1.45 or less. Similarly, The last 4 times Peabody Energy went to Gamma Max, it came back down and sharply. So I'm gambling on a similar reaction to the past to happen again.
I was going to say, in reaction to the railroad strike, I'm thinking other major players in logistics might see a boost if they have to reroute any of that traffic to other networks. And so maybe tickers like UPS, FedEx, maybe Amazon, Swift, JB Hunt might be something to look into in the call.
Just remember the deadline for that strike is the 9th.
Yeah, I like Knightsbridge calls, ticker KNX, for January, $55 calls on Knightsbridge. It was brought up earlier that they're a very conservative company and have almost no union presence. So it's unlikely that their truckers are unionized and would strike in sympathy with the rail company, tickers KNX, January, $55 calls. I'm going to try to pick them up for, I don't know, I'll see if I can get them for like maybe 230, 235 a call. See what happens.
What was the strike price of the January calls?
I'm going to try to get them for like 230 or 235. They're currently trading 240 pre-market. Hopefully that bleeds down a little bit and I can pick them up for cheaper. Oh, and the target was $55. Sorry.
55. All right, thanks.
Nintendo seems to level out at 1050. We're sitting pretty at 1050 this morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. So I wanted to say thank you to the mods. You guys handled yesterday pretty well. I was in the chat for a while. Just want to say good job on that. Secondly, I wanted to say that I'm looking for Robinhood to go on a quick fire sale. I'm hoping that when SBF unloads it, that I can pick up some Robinhood on the low. So I'm looking for short term a drop because everyone's been assuming that SBF's gonna give us a fire sale. And I'm hoping that Robinhood will recover likely in the first or second quarter, very likely the first, especially with the influx of crypto into Robinhood. Thank you, guys.
Is the thesis that SBF will be forced to liquidate his Robinhood position to pay restitution for the money lost in FTX?
That's correct. That's my thesis on why it will go on sale. Yeah.
What's your timeline for that event?
I'm not exactly sure what that type of litigation or when he would have to liquidate all of that to pay for that type of expense. So I'm currently just thinking Q4, but obviously that's only a month and a half left. So not sure that's too likely. If you guys have any idea of what that timing should look like, I'd be more than happy to hear.
Using the Mt. Gox settlement as a proxy, it will take 3 to 4 years to fully unwind FTX and potentially recover any funds from SBF.
I think it's going to be significantly longer given all the poor controls they had. But yes, your point is that it'll take a very long time.
I mean, he seems like
good play. It's just figuring out when the sale is going to happen, and I don't think it's going to happen for 2 or 3 years.
What about
I appreciate it. Thank you,
what
guys.
about forcing the sale of his hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate in the Bahamas? Do you think the courts could potentially force him to do that years ahead of the total resolution of this?
Would they? Yes. Will they? I don't know if Bahamas follows the same primary domicile law that Florida has.
I saw yesterday that his mom owned those properties. I think he gave those to his mom.
Yeah, but if they can tie that, I mean, they've already tied it to him. So it's yeah, they're not gonna. He's not gonna get away with that. They're gonna take the value of that property back at some point.
So Waffles, your play would be when that happens, you're looking to buy Robinhood on a fire sale, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm also a bag holder now, so getting even more at a cheaper price is still good. And I mean, I still do see it going up to 16, and that is, again, last time I came on here, I did clarify that was a trust me bro price. I haven't built a pricing model yet, and that's something that I'm planning on doing this weekend, actually.
I just want more people to buy Nintendo stock.
If you know go down for a fire sale, why don't you just buy some puts and then use that money that you make from the puts to buy the more shares?
That's the issue. We don't know when that's going to happen. So your puts are going to expire worthless. Kind of like all those options that people bought trying to trade the Union strike up until now.
Sell the puts then, right?
So I do want to talk about the union strike. Do you guys, what do we think? It looks like the major one rejected the deal. So shit's going sideways.
Alexander, did you want to talk about your play on TSX? If not, I'll talk about your play on TSX. It's pretty dope.
Go for it, Scald.
Yeah, so looking at puts, $29.17 strike January, based on the fact that the actual strike is supposed to occur on the 9th of December. So I think that's a pretty good play. This ties into my Knightsbridge, right? Puts on CSX, calls on Knightsbridge, in anticipation that the cargo shipping on CSX will have to go somewhere, and it's going to have to go to trucking companies that aren't willing to strike in sympathy with the unions.
That's a good play. Is there specific cargo that this, I guess, a union carries?
There are certain types of cargo that are much easier to ship, like liquid natural gas and a few other things that are much easier to ship by train than by truck. Also, we did look up, Hardy, after you left, we did look up actual shipping prices to compare train shipping to truck shipping through various locations. And it turns out you're already paying a premium to ship by train. So it's actually more expensive to ship by train. My supposition would be that the reason that is because there are certain products that can only realistically be shipped by train. So, I do think that's an interesting fact. They'll have to be carrying a lot more trucks to make up for these train cars that carry those substances.
I've got a contact in the real world who has been working in logistics for probably a couple of decades now. And she tells me things about the supply chain and stuff all the time, and it lines up with a lot of what we're saying in here. I don't know what questions to ask her that would help us. Do you guys know what information I could get out of her?
What does she do?
She's been in logistics, like loads and trucks and some drayage. I didn't know what that word was until like a year ago. Drayage, I think, is like moving shit on rail, but also by boat, I think.
So can you ask her how she basically prices understand the difference in the price versus on a railroad versus a truck, and then also without considering time, does she pass on that price if it costs more, for example, on a train? Does she pass it on to the customer? I guess I assume she's doing B2B at this point.
She is. I'm speculating. I'm about 85% sure, just based on our conversations, that they do. The trucking companies pass the cost on to the customer when the trucking person, when the driver comes. Like if you call and you're like, okay, I got this company that's got a load, and they want, they'll do it for $2,000. If you can't find a driver that'll do it for $2,000, that extra cost that you're going to have to pay comes out of the customer's pocket, not the people that it's being delivered to, I believe.
Well, the price of diesel goes up and the price of moving equipment goes up.
I'm gonna speak on a Woe TJ 33K. Sorry, I don't know how to say her name, but I used to work for a HVAC company who used to sell HVAC products, and that was the move. the truckers pass it on to the customers. So I saw shipments or shipment prices as well as product prices rise up like 11% when I was there. I think it was 11. I don't know. It was like 2 years ago, but it was bad.
Skull, can you ask your questions again?
Ask my question again. Which question?
For the logistics employee person. I think it was you that had questions.
Oh, that was Ayat.
Am I wrong on who it was? I've got her with me is why. So if we have questions
Yeah,
about
Hardy, can you ask her that question for me? I think you understand my question.
I don't have a play, but I have railroad info.
Let's hear it.
So a buddy of mine that I've known since high school, he's worked for the railroad. He's an engineer for used to be Conrail. I think it's either CSX or NS now. And he's worked for them for decades. The unions are not going to take this. They're going to strike. A couple of the railroad unions have already voted it down. For whatever reason, the rest of the unions were holding the vote, not letting the union body vote on this because of the midterms. And it's not a money thing. It's their work conditions are just garbage. And every time they do a contract, the railroad never lives up to making better working conditions for these guys. That's really what it comes down to in the end. So I've been saying it for months in the written chat thing that, they're going to strike. It's just a matter of when. That's all I had to say, guys.
If you don't mind me asking, is that more of a East Coast or West Coast thing? Or
we're in the Northeast.
Yeah, this strike's going to be nationwide, buddy. If it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be northeast, west, midwest.
Well,
right.
I'm in the Midwest, so I can kind of see it happening with my people, but nah.
And here in the Northeast, like everything is moved in my area. I'm in the Philly area, so everything is moved by freight train.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm over I'm across the bridge in South Jersey, and everything is moved via Amtrak.
I'm in a small town. I'm in a small town outside
Oh,
of
it's all moving
Knoxville.
via Amtrak?
All right.
Yeah.
Scald, was the
by
union trade that you presented earlier, does it work for all this sentiment?
Yeah, I've not really heard anything that changes my thesis. Yeah.
Okay, great. Union strike's gonna happen. It's gonna suck. Scald, do you want to say the trade one more time? Wrap it up.
Yeah, so that's January puts $29.17 strike on January for CSX. Again, that's $29.17. The reason it's trading in those strange increments is due to a stock split for January on CSX, and then Knightsbridge long KNX trying to get in on the $55 calls for January, and trying to get those for cheaper than they're currently trading. So.
Excellent. It's not my, actually, I'll make a trade out of it, but there's a good DD that was posted. I'll put it in the comments. I think it's pretty good. And it's this guy talking about ticker AEHR, and that is Air Test Systems, or AEHR Test Systems. They're a semiconductor chip stock, and they merged with the SPAC, I believe, last year. And they had some tremendous growth, but they're only making about 50 million, 60 million in revenue, and they have a market cap of 700 million. So this guy, let's see, what's his Milob 2016, and again, I'll put that in the comments. Yeah, this guy says buy puts on AHR. They're significantly overvalued, $700 million market cap on $60 million in assets, which is not much, by the way. Price to book value 14. It's pretty high even for a semiconductor chip stock. And their forward estimates are really high. If you're looking at ticker.com or Bloomberg, if you're not poor. But the stock looks very overvalued. The valuation, let's see, enterprise value to EBITDA, we got 36 times forward. So that's way higher than the big semiconductor chip stocks, the well-known ones, AMD, NVIDIA, so forth. So yeah, this thing looks really overvalued. It's had a hell of a run, and perhaps at some point it was a good buy. But I think I agree with this guy, and there's been a lot of insider selling. So yeah, execs, the board, everybody's selling now that the price has had a really big run up. So to turn this to a trade, I would look at maybe March. I'm looking at strike 15 contracts for March. They're not as expensive. They don't look too bad. Either way, you're going to have to pay up for those puts. So maybe strike 15 contracts expiring in March. I would want more time on something like this. Just because something's overvalued doesn't mean it has to drop. He did make a comment. He's not necessarily bearish on the business. He thinks the business is pretty good. This is mostly a play on valuation. And I think if we get that recession that, we keep talking about, semiconductor chip stocks should fall a good amount. And the overvalued ones, the very overvalued ones, will fall even harder. So yeah, check out his play in the comments.
You can kick me back down. I don't know how to get back out of this.
We're done with the rail strike stuff, so right, we move on to some other players.
I had a question for the gentleman shorting Beyond. You had talked about a warehouse situation. Could you extrapolate a little bit? I'm completely unfamiliar.
Imagine for a moment that you're in a warehouse and you're going into the Beyond Meat warehouse, that is. And you walk in and you see mold on the wall, black mold. That doesn't take a day or a week to grow. It takes forever to grow. And then imagine for a moment that you see equipment with that mold on it, and then packaging with that mold on it. Shall I continue?
And this is critical to their supplies, not a one-off distribution.
Do they only have one distribution center, or like what amount of their product is affected, if at all?
I think from a branding standpoint, hey, if you want me to sell you some Cheetos with some mold on it, it doesn't really matter what warehouse it comes from.
No,
It's a
the
total
reason
brand
why I
thing.
asked Ayad is, does this affect 50% of, if there's a recall or when there's a recall, is it 50% of product, 100% of product, 20% of product?
Yeah, I do not have that answer.
One thing I also see, it's already in the news on the Beyond Meat Robinhood ticker. They're already showing it, so I would guess it's priced in.
I'm looking for publicly traded 3PL companies. Does anybody know any of those?
Quick question, Ayad. How old is that video? Would you know?
Robinhood is showing the news from yesterday, so I don't know what date
I
the
will
video is.
That's when the video
assume
was
that
released, but when was it taken?
I will assume that it was in the summertime. It's an assumption. Because it's speculation right now, but basically it came from Bloomberg. But further research showed that it is actually from early fall. So I don't know if that's September or if you want to say August, for roundabouts. Either way, it's not. It doesn't look good. So I don't have an answer for that. Bloomberg would be your best bet for now, I guess.
Got a question regarding the binary CSX and trucking play.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that the trucking industry is already at full capacity, and in fact, they don't have enough drivers as it is. How much additional capacity or freight are they going to be able to move without drivers? That, and then the follow-up question is that from what I'm understanding, a lot of the truckers are very dissatisfied because the fuel costs are being passed on to some of them, and there's a good chance that unionized trucking shops are going to go on strike as well. And how is that going to? I mean, I don't see how if you're at capacity, how you can carry more cargo.
I can probably speak to some of that. I'm the guy that has the lady that knows the logistics. She works in logistics. One of the things that she complains about most is the language barrier that she has with drivers, and the reason why is because there's a lot of immigrants coming over that are working in the trucking industry. So it's not like that old fat white guy that stinks real bad in the truck anymore. It's like Hajib or whatever, and you can't understand what they're saying. So when you're talking about like unionizing and people striking and stuff, I don't know if that's going to work in the trucking industry because those aren't like your traditional Americans, right? Like I don't know.
So Hajib that speaks like Farsi, or are you talking like somebody who, like Juan who speaks Spanish?
It's a variety. Like there's a Vlad, there's Indians, there's Muslim people that are happening. Everybody, literally everybody.
But I happen to have a CB, and I can guarantee you that the redneck, fat, smelly guy that was traditionally the truck driver for the U.S. trucking industry is still out there and still represented.
Right. So what I am,
America.
What I do see is that those guys, that like traditional American truckers, are the ones that have the career, right? Like those dudes are making good money. They're making demands on their time. They do what they want to do. Whereas the immigrant people do what they have to do, and they're not making that good money.
I can attest to this that most of the times a transporter calls to come pick up a car that we've sold on an online auction to another dealer. A lot of times they will call in and they have a Russian accent, a deep Russian accent, or some other foreign accent. So most of the transportation companies to pick up a car are not, I want to say, U.S. citizens.
So to that point, I think I don't want to get political, but I think the answer to your question is it depends on what party is in power. I think if the Democrats are in power, then it's easier for them to say, hey, let's bring in a bunch of immigrants and put them in trucks and drive stuff around, and it's not that big of a deal, right? But it might not be the case if the other side's in power.
The other thing to keep in mind is that, how is this going to affect only people that are working for companies as drivers, or is this also going to affect people that are owner operators that own their own truck and that are operating as their own company freight?
So that gets me to the play. It's what we can count on is if this strike goes through, 3PL companies, third-party logistic companies, stand to make quite a bit of money because all the stuff that's coming out of the docks is going to end up on their docket. And so I don't know. I'm trying to find publicly traded 3PL companies or like who I would even bet on in there, but I can't. I don't know what I'm doing yet.
An update on
JBHT is JB Hunt. To my knowledge, they operate a bunch of 18-wheeler semi-truck type vehicles.
What I will say,
okay,
I would avoid the ETFs because the ETFs also contain the railway, right? It's both trucking and railway.
On that Beyond Meat real quick. Go ahead, Colt.
Oh, I was just going to say that's my problem with making a play on ETFs. I spent all morning looking at different ETFs, and they pretty much all had intermodal rail exposure. So that's why I'm making a play on individual securities.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just trying to figure out which ones.
I was just going to say Beyond Meat.
I got
just an update on there.
For you.
Okay.
Old Dominion Freight.
Are they public?
All right. Was it Nedley? Did you say you have an update on Beyond Meat?
Yeah, IOT does. I wanted to say Beyond Meat.
Sorry.
No problem. Okay.
Sorry, I'm driving right now, so it's a little spotty. Let me get the ticker for you guys.
Well, I think we can get it for you. We don't want you to crash.
FL.
Yeah, ODFL.
Yep, that's the one. Yeah, Old Dominion Freight Line. They operate they operate with trains, 18-wheelers. I don't know if they still do air freight. They might, but they're one of the oldest and one of the most used freight deliverers. I do, I own my own woodworking shipping company, and whenever I need a shipment of black walnut, it always shows up at my property on an Old Dominion freight.
Nice.
Could you tell us the difference in trucking and railroad shipping? Have you ever used railroad shipping?
Before he does that, can I get my Beyond Meat update?
Do it.
It's only going to take 30 seconds.
You've been trying to for a minute.
Yeah,
Let's hear
sorry.
it.
Okay, so Beyond Meat has other factories, including one in China, as well as an R&D center in El Segundo, California. So that factory, or what if you want to call it factory, in Charleston town, about 45 minutes from Philadelphia, was the only processing plant that got the problem. And furthermore, they did come out with the report saying that we had a inspection in September 2022, and the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture said that no, they only visited for the annual $35 registration for the company to pay up, and then also they conducted a quote unquote limited inspection. So you guys can take that. You guys can take that and run with it. So yeah, I think it's a pretty solid play to Beyond.
And to add to that, that video was from April or January by a disgruntled employee.
Yeah. Hey. Also, there are other companies, or I'm sorry, other news sources coming out with more stories about about Beyond Meat, about problems they're having. So one of the Wall Street Journal reports that they're having an issue with slumping sausage. Sounds like my honeymoon.
I want to say that correction on the April was actually from Costco in Canada. So the Canada did some disgruntled employee did come out the video from in April about wood founded. There's found pieces of wood inside the packages. So there was something in April, but it was the opposite of what's happening now.
All right, so the update on Beyond Meat, short interest currently is 40.44% as of October 31st. So it's, and I think the big thing isn't how bad these distribution centers are. I think it's the fact that nobody likes the product, right? Everybody's tried a Beyond Meat burger or something similar, and they taste like shit. So that's the net.
So what's the play? Is it is it short-term puts? Are we long puts on them?
No, I'm buying some puts today for November 25th expiration. So that's 2 days away after Thanksgiving, excuse me. Going for the $12 put. And I do want to say the Beyond Burger, I did try one time. Wasn't too bad.
I've never tried one, honestly.
Isn't Beyond Burger what McDonald's uses?
Look, if I want a burger, I'm going to eat a cow. If I want to eat a plant, I'm going to go to the grocery store and go to the produce section. I'm tired of this fake ass bullshit.
It's becoming confusing. So what if you don't know? What if they just give you a patty?
Okay, if we're done with everyone's dietary preferences, can we talk some plays, please?
So I found out that
the
striking conductors.
Kind British man. Hey, all right. How about this? Let's talk plays. Nobody said a goddamn play. So I'm looking at. I think it might take time, but I think this is a stock it's looking like a zombie stock. So I think it's gonna be one of the stocks. Short sellers come in. It's obviously a short seller favorite. Capital IQ says the latest short interest figure is about 37%, and I think the stock price is going to gradually go down over time. If we have a crash, hey, that's great, but I'd see that as a cherry on top. So I think you're going to have to give this one some time, and you're going to have to be careful about the strikes you choose because the liquidity sucks, and you're going to pay a shit ton of money because everybody apparently knows Beyond Meat sucks, and we're all very fucking late to shorting them. So that said, June, if you're very bearish, you might want to look at the strike 2.5 put for expiring in June. The spreads are really shitty, but you're going to have to pay a lot of money otherwise. But otherwise, I would say go at the money or even in the money. And I might do January 2024 as well, just because I think it's going to take some time. But hey, you're going to make money if you're right over the long term. And it might have little squeezes here and there in the meantime, which could cause the value of your puts to drop significantly. The longer it takes to drop, well, it sucks to be you. So it's gonna take a while for that stock price to drop. To really drop. That's what I think. So just give it time. Watch the spreads. Watch the liquidity.
Yeah. So if you have no balls, go ahead and buy those far dated puts. With all due respect to everyone's balls, but yeah, it's definitely dropping today.
Okay.
All right.
Speaking of shorting, I'm looking at shorting BlackRock strike 675. Haven't really had a chance to look at the options chain. And alongside that, pick up some shares in the triple leverage inverse bank. What was it? FAZ. That's looking pretty juicy at the moment. So yeah, short BlackRock 675, FAZ.
What's the thesis behind shorting BlackRock?
Just from a technical perspective, MACD, and looking at the broad markets, I think we're about to enter the next leg down.
Okay, so it's TA play. Got you.
All right. Any other plays? I'm glad we got that on track.
Hey, can we discuss that Colgate play? I'm pretty interested. It's consumer defensive, but you're right. It's picking off the all-time high, or well, year high. So I'm kind of liking those Colgate puts dated for Friday.
Mm-hmm. CL put. If you want a nice little one to go into, $75 put. Puts 5 cents in. Probably pick it up today for 8 cents. But I don't have balls to go up any further, so I'll be sitting there just with the 75.
Yeah. As for long-term plays, I want to do a semiconductor ETF, SOXL, the 3x leverage bull, just to play the holiday season of, people are still going to buy tech for their kids and whatever. So I'm expecting a strong quarter out of the semiconductors. So $15 calls you at the January 2023 strike expiry, my bad.
Keep in your watch list NRBO.
I still got a piece of shit Abercrombie and Fitch put. If anybody wants to take it off my hands, I know.
What's the ticker?
Brad the Reptile. It's ANF. It's a joke. It's a joke. They're up 20% from yesterday. I'm the one holding the bag on that.
I buy from your good price.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just stay tuned to see if I lose the whole thing or maybe I break even. We'll see.
I'll give you 5 cents each.
My offer of you give me $5 and keep the contract to expire still exists today like it did yesterday.
I'll keep that in mind, Rad. On a more serious note, though, I have Peloton puts. I do not think it's going to survive the winter season. I think that I don't think anybody is actually buying their equipment anymore. If you have it and you don't have the membership, the bike doesn't work. So you have to have a membership for the bike to even function. Otherwise, you just own a $3,000 piece of shit that's taking up space in your house.
So I can actually speak on this because my older brother, he's a professional mountain biker, and the Peloton to him is bullshit. So I wouldn't bet on it.
Well, I don't
I'm
think
just saying.
Peloton's main market isn't professional mountain bikers, though. It's your soccer mom who doesn't really exercise.
If the sentiment is Peloton is bullshit, I don't really think we need to go in depth on that thesis. So,
right, that's what that is.
yeah.
So I mean, I'm retarded, but
yeah. So puts on it moving into the Christmas holiday. I have $9 puts expiring January 20th.
Awesome. Hey, are we doing our uranium talk today at 5 p.m.? It got pushed off from yesterday.
Oh yeah.
I'm down if you're ready to do it. I know you banned GME just to dodge me, so I see how it is.
I had to come up with some excuse, but don't worry.
He called your ass out.
I'm sure at 5 o'clock today you'll be banning AMC and canceling that talk again. It's okay. I see how it is.
Wait, so
no.
AMC's not banned, but GameStop is?
Yeah, AMC people are just fewer in number, so they're a lot more manageable.
And they're not as big of an asshole.
I don't know. I don't know if they're. Yeah, that's debatable. I think.
I was saying yesterday to ban AMC also.
So,
Well, I feel like
opinion.
we're gonna ban one, we should ban the other. You know what I mean?
So
Hello.
I was just curious, what's the best parts to listen to on that 5-hour talk?
None of it.
Okay.
Well, maybe the parts where Luce was impersonating ICANN, or we actually had Carl ICANN on the call.
Yeah, that wasn't. Yeah, that wasn't an impersonation. Do we have timestamps? Opinion?
Thank God we do not. But I think Carl ICANN is actually.
Yeah, Carl
saw-
Icahn. People were asking about the deep fakes, or he was explaining that there were deep fakes of his pictures, and you knew that they were deep fakes because his massive balls weren't showing through the bottom of his shorts.
Nice.
Do we have Carl ICANN on the call right now?
Oh,
No,
I'd be
he's
so
sleeping.
excited. Oh shit! No, I was getting real excited there.
I also like Zafnar's wrinkle brain. I like Zafnar's wrinkle brain rant explaining to everybody that there's other stocks on the stock market, and I loved it. It was great.
Yeah. Oh my God. Where he went in on people who he was essentially saying pick up a book and learn how to fucking read the stock market.
Yeah. So in summary, it was a pretty fun time. If you have 4.5 hours to burn, I guess go watch it. It's mostly the same thing over and over.
If it
but
helps,
otherwise,
that dude was going off.
If it helps, his rant is in the first 2 hours because I didn't stay around that long and I got to hear the glory
Well,
of it.
maybe Luce can bring him out later. Maybe at right before the close of this talk, or maybe the uranium talk. That'd be great.
Yeah, he's got to recharge. He's an old man, and when he shows himself publicly, it's very exhausting. It's draining. So he's got to recharge. So give him some time. He'll come back.
Isn't he? He's the restless billionaire. Anyways, let's.
That's the spin. That's like when Kim Jong-un says that he doesn't have to shit.
Wait, he does?
He says.
Anyways, I've learned a lot on this call.
Anyway, back to plays. I just put my order in for $157 on SoFi. Let's buy this dip. Let's fucking go.
I have a play short SoFi. I think it's a piece of shit, and it doesn't make sense for the bank to exist. Why does that company exist? I don't think there's any points. Short SoFi, buy puts.
Yeah,
But
so
it's
short
gonna dip some
SoFi.
more.
They're negative CTB at minimum, by the way. So fucking short them. Make that money while you can get it.
Wow.
Negative cost to borrow?
Negative cost to borrow minimum opinion. You heard it.
So wait, they pay me to borrow SoFi stocks? Sorry,
I
what?
think
Better
there's something
believe
you're
it.
missing.
Why do I feel like we're missing something here?
Oh, why don't you ask Luce? He should know.
No, it's definitely a positive cost to borrow. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, Mass.
Oh,
I was messing you the first part, but I don't know what the shit you're talking about here.
The minimum. Look at the minimum. Not the average, the minimum.
All right.
I'm so lost. Are we getting paid to short something? I think I don't know if that's really possible. If that is possible, then please tell me what book it is, because I got a shitload of books and I need to return them all.
Wait, what are we doing in this everything?
we are wrapping up the call with some more plays.
Yeah, good morning. Anybody still shorting Coinbase here? I just don't like it, and I'm just using any kind of strength here to pop it. Am I a day late and $1 short, or is this still a go?
Seven Smokes, can you tell me get a hot dog?
What are you guys talking about?
Yeah. Coinbase, short Coinbase. I think Coinbase is a piece of shit. They're gonna have a bad event. Management sucks. They don't know how to make money. Their profits are too correlated, too highly correlated to crypto stock prices. So I think it's shit. So I am trading ratio, diagonal, and calendar spreads. Figure out what that means.
You guys are inversing Kathy Woods, the legendary investor Kathy.
Yeah, I'm in $35 December 16th puts.
Oh, also DoorDash, short DoorDash. They're a piece of shit.
We think it's
I'm
going to
shorting
hit
the
$35
shares.
by December. Wow.
December 16th to be exact.
Will Coinbase go bankrupt?
Not likely.
Acquired.
I mean, $20 is in their future, I believe.
All right. Any last second plays? We got a minute and a half left.
405 spy calls, 0 date. See you in Valhalla.
Seven Smokes, can you say get back to work? I like your accent.
Get back to work.
Thank you.
Ask if anybody wants some coffee.
Wait, is there coffee?
Oh, what happened to that Black Rifle coffee company that was mentioned on the talk? It's actually above market cap.
Wait, I've heard of that shit. That's actually good coffee.
That's veteran owned, though, opinion.
Oh, yeah.
I think yeah, so that's why Opinion hates them.
I was
He's actually their
interested
biggest
until...
short.
Opinion. Tomorrow is
Short
Thanksgiving.
Black Rifle coffee, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Is that
Are you
related
going
to
to be
veterans
open?
or?
Are you going to be open?
We are going to have a very special talk, Luce and I, and everyone else.
All
In
right.
case you thought that was a
Yes.
one-on-one thing.
What time did we decide on for tomorrow?
Same as usual.
Oh, same as usual. Okay.
8:30.
All right,
All right.
8:30 EDT Eastern.
8:35.
Was this the thread I was seeing about Luce basting a turkey?
Yes.
Luce based the turkey for a living.
Everyone
bases a
knows
lot
I
of
base turkeys. Yes. Black Rifle Coffee Company. Yeah, fuck those guys. They say the veterans. Who the veterans here? They helping you out? Yeah, fuck those guys. They're taking advantage of the veteran title. Yeah, if you're a veteran, you don't do that. So fuck those guys. That's all I have to say.
All right, I'm buying puts on Luce's fanboy journalist. I'm buying big puts on fanboy because he predicted a podcast, millions of dollars.
So I have to apologize for him now. I did not pay him to say that. I mean, think about it. If I did pay him to come up and become my fanboy, why the fuck would I pay him to be sexist and racist? So yeah, he's kind of an asshole. So I apologize for that. We had talked and he was like, I'm going to say I'm sorry and I'm going to fix this. I was like, wow, what a great guy. Look at that. Everyone loves a good redemption story. And then he came on and he continued to be an asshole. So yeah, he's definitely gone. He's banned.
Thanks for your service, Luce.
Yeah, thanks for your service, Luce.
Yeah, thanks,
for banning journalists? Yeah, you're welcome.
Anyone watching NRBO?
He's only kind of an asshole.
Do we need to worry about your safety, Luce? Like, is he gonna stalk you and shit?
No. I'm in Texas, and I have guns. So yeah, that's not a problem.
It's too much racism and guns in Texas. You're safe as fuck.
And speaking of guns, what gun stocks do we have other than the typical defense
Smith
stocks?
and Wesson, baby.
Isn't ammo the big gun stock that people tend to bring up when they get bullish on guns?
Smith and Wesson, market cap, people. Market
Are we
cap.
bullish on guns? Why are we bullish on guns?
Because
opinion asked about it.
because you need them for defense.
World War III is around the corner.
I just bought a gun.
Yeah, U.S. soldier is bullish on guns. Who'd have thought?
Not to get not political in any way, but because of the mass shooting that occurred yesterday in the Walmart, I would be bearish on guns for today. I would say that they're going to take a dip.
I feel like I'm bearish on Walmart.
No, I don't think so. The more mass shootings, the more people need guns to protect themselves.
Strangely enough, usually when there's something like a mass shooting and people get worried that guns can get banned, you see gun sales go up as people rush to the store to try to get them before bans go in. It's the same way when a Democrat.
Exactly.
It's the
Every
same way when
time
And it's
Democrats come into
Black
power.
people
Friday.
go and
Sales
buy
going
2 or
crazy.
3
Take their guns.
guns because the
Crazy thing
government
about
starts
it, you
talking.
never.
All right, one at a time,
Yeah.
guys. This is a little
Okay.
chaotic.
Yeah,
Uh,
before
on
it gets
Brian's
too dark or political, yes, there's an inverse relationship, with a seemingly illogical relationship between the stock prices of gun stocks and shootings, or the threat of a ban, right? So it is based on the threat of a ban. Also, likewise, it depends on the party that's in charge. If Republicans have control, gun stock prices tend to underperform because there's no threat of a ban and nobody feels the need to stock up on guns. When Democrats are in control, that's when that threat of a ban is there, and that's when stock prices tend to bump up a bit. But it's almost always short-lived. It's almost always short-term. So just keep that in mind if you're trading gun stocks.
and speaking of retailers getting shot down, Nordstrom is down like 8%. And I think they were halted just seconds ago.
Yeah, there was a guy yesterday in the comments who had bought calls and puts at open yesterday, and it pumped like 6.5% on the day, and then tanked 14%. It was down 8.5% from open after hours. So I'm not really sure if he actually sold those two sides of his play, but he could have made a shit ton of money on those.
He could have also sold them inversely and fucked himself pretty bad.
Oh, he 100% sold the puts when it was way too high and the calls when it was super low. Totally did that opposite.
I mean, it's a possibility for sure. Speaking of buying low and selling high, I'm looking at SPY 397 puts, 24 cents or less. I really hope it pumps up to that 405 for you, additional darkness, and then I'm going to buy puts. Buying puts for cheap.
Oh yeah, we need to see that pump. We need to see this shit break 401 and then, go to the moon for a little bit and then have your puts print. So yeah.
Well, a sudden silence. Well,
Yeah,
what happens when we get quiet. Where is he?
Elevator music?
No, not elevator music. Where is
Porn?
he? Ah, there he is. Wait, hold on.
Warren Buffett?
I'm kind of scared.
Well, you should be scared, but I mean, you might not accept the input. And there he is.
No shit.
Dun, 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 dun.
Simple.
What?
Please grace us with your presence.
I came here today to talk about one thing, and that is opinion muting me yesterday in the GME talk. I couldn't express myself towards the apes, and my week is ruined, and I don't know how to recover from this.
He has a very delicate Croatian ego.
Can we have
Yes.
Simple and Opinion do a cage match?
We all know what that cage match would turn into when we put those two in there together.
Yeah, that grinder stock would go up quick, wouldn't it?
Whoa, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, well, that's uncalled for.
Yeah, I think Grinder's a little oversold now. I'm not gonna lie.
I could just see fans throwing bottles of lube into the ring as the fight happens.
Yeah, fight being the operative word there.
Fans, but only fans, of course.
Oh wow, I didn't even see what happened to Grindr yesterday. Like for the rest of the day, it's actually back down almost to like SPAC prices, $11.80.
That meat got grinded pretty hard.
Sentimental trading.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm bullish on Grindr at these prices.
Me too.
Do you think like it's just cheap compared to Bumble and Match?
Yeah, I mean that's literally my whole thesis.
But like on what metrics?
On basis of users versus market cap, as well as the fact that we did try to sign up for a Grindr ad account and their minimum ad spend is $20,000 a month. You have to pay them $20,000 a month for your ads to show up on Grindr. So they're making money somewhere.
Also,
Is there?
joke aside, Grindr is like legitimately the version of like hot singles in your area want to hook up right now, but actually delivers on that for their user base.
Is there really any way to? Is there really any way to know exactly how many shares are going to be printed with this company? Because with SPACs, it's kind of an unknown till later on, and all of a sudden a bunch of prints, a bunch of shares are on the float, and it goes to fucking shit. The market cap.
The pipe shares unlock, I believe it's 150 days after the stock stays above $12 for 20 out of 30 days. So in any 30-day rolling period, if the stock trades above $12 for 20 days, it will unlock the pipe shares basically a couple months after that. So that's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, it just dipped below there, so it's reset the clock. Potentially, unless it just pops right back up over 12 and stays there for the rest of the month.
But that's just a chance to get in now, ride it up, sell, and then buy it when it gets super cheap again when those shares unlock.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. I just bought 30 shares at like 11.90. I think I'm gonna wait for it to fly to the moon again.
I might wait for it to add an options chain and just do CSPs for a little bit. Keep it simple.
So, are we all in agreement that Grindr is the new power bottom of the bear market, or is it still Twink?
Grindr hit the bottom of the bear market is more like it.
Hit the bottom. I don't know if Twink is even doing anything interesting. Like Hostess Brands is just, it's kind of boring.
Yeah, Twink is kind of taking a little bit.
The plus side to Twink is that in a nuclear apocalypse, the food will still be good.
I mean, look, like the stock is up like 40% year to date. It's like this
long on Twink.
long on. Oh well, not surprised.
I want to say something, then I'm out. I have to run. After yesterday's conversation, I talked with some people in the Discord about this. I really find it funny, and I to actually appreciate the group that comes here regularly, and everybody that's listening, because internet is a very dark and not funny place. So yeah, after the many talks that we have with the apes, I feel more appreciate with this group, and I just wanted to put that out there. Not that you're gonna get anything. We're not gonna be more nice, but yeah, we appreciate you, boy.
Well, thanks, and go fuck yourself, Simple.
Same. That's a beautiful statement, my friend.
We appreciate you, Simple. You add a lot of moderation to any chat that you're a part of. Honestly, I miss the days where you used to show up regularly, because a lot of the buffoonery was cut back. So if you could get back to the cutthroat kicking and muting, that would be much appreciated.
I can get behind that also.
You know what? Like, you guys are running the talks now. Like, everybody's so in the line. Like, you cut the dumb people off, you fuck with them. Like, we made a culture here, and it really is something. Like, you don't even need us to run this shit.
Fair enough.
Nah, but nobody does it like you, bro.
Exactly. It's for the nostalgia reasons.
Nobody does it better.
Like, I'm fairly new, but I definitely appreciate when you just cut to the bull. You cut the bullshit and cut people off. It definitely helps with newbies like me who come for the plays.
Bro, your child is waiting for you. Like, he's crying in the back. Fuck off. What are you doing here?
Y'all DM each other on Grindr.
Yeah, my screen name is Balls Deep.
That's how you know a true degenerate gambler when you hear the kids screaming in the background.
Yep.
And they're still throwing puts in.
Right. They're still firing off their final trades.
You're assuming that's his kid.
That's true. It could be somebody
It's one of-
else's, and it just got the duct tape off. So
That's even funny. That's even better.
It's one of my 5.
Your wife's.
God damn, man.
Damn, 5.
I got 3. I would not want 5. Fuck
God damn.
that.
Damn.
Well, since you're collecting them, do you want mine? He'll work for
You
food.
like? Are you guys farming? Is that?
More like he's raising a NBA starting 5 there.
Wait. I figured it
right.
out. He heard the corn play, and he had a bunch of kids, so he could just start a corn farm.
I sometimes wonder how that guy is doing with trucks filled with corn that he
I'm saying.
believes can totally be kept safe.
Oh, he's actually doing pretty well. He was on the Discord for a little bit until he started ranting at everyone. But it sounds like, he's still very much into corn. Like unironically into corn. I'm glad he found something that makes him happy in life.
I simply cannot believe that this man actually has truckloads of corn on his property.
Joking aside, I think he said that he raises hogs or something, so he's just naturally got corn around his feed.
And so Nintendo's at 1050.
I kind of wanted to hear more about the railroad play after this Nintendo discussion.
Well, we don't have to talk about Nintendo. I did find out that the conductors who are striking are asking for 25% increases in their salary, and they want a $5,000 bonus. What that all translates to is fuck no.
It's actually fairly reasonable. Their wages got frozen in 2020. And so despite this high inflationary environment, for the last 2 years, they've been working on their 2020 salaries. And so they've just seen their purchasing power erode over the course of these years while still working their asses off to keep the trains moving. So I would say their demands are not as crazy. Like when you first hear them, they sound like crazy demands. But looking into it a little bit deeper, they've really been screwed over by the pandemic.
They've been super screwed because
burgers are making $15 an hour to flip burgers now, and these guys haven't had a raise since 20.
the other thing you have to understand is the conductor is the person that is in charge on the freight train. They tell the engineer what to do, and there used to be a brakeman. The brakeman would get on and off and couple and uncouple everything. They eliminated that job. So now the conductor also has to do the brakeman's job.
Was that for safety? Meaning, because when you put kind of the responsibility on the conductor, it's like, hey, you can't rely on him. You need to go and check it. Maybe.
I don't know why they eliminated the brakeman. I don't remember what the reason was, but it put everything
I think
on
it was
the
that
conductor.
movie with Denzel and the other guy that had it. One of them was a brakeman. That was one of the things about that movie is the elimination.
Oh shit! Is that Chris Farley back in the chat?
It's Beetlejuice.
So with my
you want it Zag Nut?
Fucking yes, Beetlejuice all day.
So with my limited reading that I was able to do in this railroad shortage, it looks like there's 12 different unions at play. And of those 12, sorry, I just got re-invited by opinion and that completely confused my computer. All right, so of the 12 unions in this, 8 of them are not really in favor of striking. It's only 4 other unions that are really talking about it as far as the 12-day out, potential strike on the 9th. The other ones are willing to wait at least a month, is what I've found.
Aren't the ones that are willing to strike the biggest ones, though?
They're bigger ones, but they're specific products with which they deal with. So each of the unions ship or transports certain specific products. So you want to look within those 4 actual unions that are saying we might strike, what specifically they are dealing with.
That's what I was trying to get to earlier. Do we know what specifically those products are?
I'll have to. I was reading through a CNN article and it listed out at least for a
not
couple of
cross
them.
the other union's line. It does not matter. The other unions will not be on strike, but they will not go to work because they will not cross the picket line.
Well, what my point was with the conductors, if their union goes on strike, freight trains do not move. It doesn't matter what the engineer union does. The engineer union for Conrail did vote to accept the contract. My buddy just told me through messaging, but he confirmed that the conductors union is they're willing to go on strike over it. They go on strike, then the freight trains do not move, at least in this South Jersey area where I am for Conrail, and they move large commodities. They move everything out of the ports, huge coils of steel. Each one of those covered hoppers can hold multiple coils of steel. A tractor trailer can only move one coil of steel. All the steel that comes in on the ships comes in these giant coils, and it has to be shipped to companies that can uncoil it and cut it down to size for resale. And when you guys were talking earlier about immigrants in the tractor trailers,
it's nothing compared to the freight. You know, they own the trend. They own it.
The tractor trailers, up until a couple years ago, I was doing security at one of the state-owned ports in New Jersey, and the majority of the trucks that come in are being driven by people that do not speak English. They do not read English. They're from former COMBLOC countries. They're from India, and they are sent there by brokers, and it's not good. And they're not even allowed to talk between each other, between the trucks, because they're getting screwed so bad on what they're getting paid. So they're trying, it's a big squeeze to squeeze owner operators and citizens basically out of being able to drive.
Many years ago, when I was working for an energy services company and project managing in a fracking field, we used to have this three-team driver. They drive all the way from Texas all the way up to the northern states here for fracking, and there were just these three smaller Indian guys, and like their truck would roll in, and man, it would just smell like an Indian restaurant showed up. It was amazing because they'd cook in their truck. They lived out of that thing. All three of them would just take shifts driving. They'd show up, and everybody would be like, "Man, it's time for lunch." It was just the funniest thing.
Oh yeah, and these guys are totally crazy. They would pull up to the guard booth, and they would have a big tablet up on their dash, and they're watching porn while they're driving, which is just insane that you're driving a big ass truck and you're not watching where you're going.
So what's the market impact here? I mean, are we selling them more porn? Or?
Large commodities to go up in price if the railroad strikes, because, like I said, each one of those covered hoppers can move several coils of metal. These coils are like 50,000 pounds each or more. A tractor trailer, when those tractor trailers leave the port, most of the time they have one coil and it's right in the center of their flatbed trailer, and that's all they can move because it's too much weight for over the road. Which is why they like the immigrants, because the immigrants will have the port load 2 and 3 on there and try and get away with it without going to the scales and stuff.
Okay, so where's all the steel going is what you're saying. I mean, what's the deal with the steel? I may have missed that part of the conversation. I mean, yes, all goods and services are passed through the railroads. Hardly anything is done at an 18-wheeler level. I mean, yeah, there's transportation, but nothing like the railroads. Railroads move all the goods and services. But, is a bunch of steel going to a tank manufacturer or something?
That I don't know where it's going, but it's got to go to places that are able to process these coils and put it back into sheet steel. But my point was, if the railroad goes on strike, steel and other commodities like that have to go up, because tractor trailers physically just can't move the amount of steel that the train can move.
That's why I wanted to know where the steel is going.
An insane amount of tractor trailers to replace just one train.
If it's going to like Tesla's plant or something like that for stamping, I'm not really going to think the steel's going to go up too much. Maybe in his inventory.
I'm in the Northeast, so I doubt they're shipping it down to Tesla.
I was a figure of speech. I mean,
yeah.
There's one company that.
So Would that be good for the companies like a Cleveland Cliffs or U.S. Steel because the price of steel is going up, or would it be bad because it's harder for them to deliver in since they can't move as much?
They can't deliver on their, deliveries or their sales. Backs them up.
It's bad because it's not demand-driven increase in price. It's an increase in price driven by a strike.
Supply, because of supply.
Yeah, your supply would be then very affected just for sheer logistics of moving the material.
So then Hardy's
nothing
play
else.
on getting puts on X would be backed up by this as well, along with his Gamma Max play. X is US Steel, for those who don't know.
Yeah. Yes, your confirmational bias is there.
All right, you schmucks, have a good day. I'll see you later.
I don't know, but that's sexy. Whatever he was saying earlier about something sounded sexy. Gamma something multiple play. I was like, what? Sexy.
God. Thank you very much, Basic Jones. Love to have you.
So calls on porn, right? Because if the drivers are all watching porn while they're driving the semis.
Well,
Calls
I
on
don't think you
Grindr.
can. Yeah, you can't really trade any porn stocks. And if you could, it'd be very dicey because MasterCard and Visa basically control that whole industry. They can decide to, force certain regulations and they impose certain ideas on these companies, and there's nothing they can do. That's what happened to Pornhub and a lot of other companies.
Even funnier is that person watching the porn is actually driving the technology to that laptop because they're data tracking him and going, well, he's not getting a good signal, so we need to put more of a repeater over here or, drop a tower over there. Promise you.
You're right. No, the real player is like Starlink or something.
The plays on the cameras, GoPros, iPhones, whatever they use on the OnlyFans accounts.
Hey guys, good morning. I just wanted to talk about Black Friday and if anybody had any plays. I'm thinking that the market becomes very volatile and either drops or goes up.
I said this before, but I'm shocked at how little Black Friday advertising I'm seeing for all businesses. Other than Amazon being early Black Friday, it has been
They're trying to tone that
nothing.
down only because of all the injuries the motherfuckers get on, getting everybody all hyped up, trying to lock a store and go, put a line and go, all right, come on in.
There's a lot of hints that it's going to be bad, so I'm going to be buying puts if I see a pop on SPY and see a good entry with Friday expiry. They can determine and forecast the shopping spree from before the market opens. So and last year the market tanked on Black Friday too, and I'm expecting a repeat. I'm expecting I'm hoping for even worse if I buy puts with the recession. There's a driver hiring freezes. There's reports of people having less disposable income this year, obviously. So, and as Rad was saying, same thing. I see complete lack of Black Friday hype.
I also do think something to consider because of the pandemic and people being kept at home and everything. I think a lot of people who wanted a better TV did that right during those lockdowns. That was the time to get your big screen TV. You had your stimulus check. You were stuck at home anyway. Go get your new laptop. Now that demand's less there because everyone upgraded those products. Since what else were you going to do? You couldn't go anywhere, right?
So,
Yep, all the streaming services were at their record levels.
TV sales spike in February during Super Bowl. That's normally when the TV sales really get crazy.
I've been offline for what you guys have been talking about for a second, but I found some
in football.
information. Amtrak apparently converts their trains from passenger trains to commercial trains in times of crisis like this, and apparently they're already doing that. They're canceling trips for people during the holidays and stuff and converting over to a commercial thing.
Will their drivers not stay in solidarity with the other unions?
I don't know. I have no idea. This is something I came across.
How many people on here have ever taken a train? I've never done it, but well,
I want to. It's
teaching-
actually, it's not bad. It's only like $2,000, and I can go from I think Chicago all the way up to like Washington State one way for I think that was like $1,200. That to me sounds better than a cruise. I mean, I don't know.
$1,200, $2,000.
That's
So
insane.
does that come with a cost? Do I get
I mean,
that?
you're talking. Hold up. You're talking about basically a hotel room, food, accommodations. They stop all the time, and it's like a 5-day trip.
That has nothing to do with freight.
In,
Right.
in
No, not at
Europe,
all.
I used to do that shit for $35 for a whole day. Go
Oh my
anywhere I wanted to.
Yeah, in Europe it's a lot of fun. In the U.S., it sucks taking a passenger train.
Yeah.
I've never minded Amtrak when I've been on it. It's just like being on a plane, more or less. You have an outlet to plug into. You just use whatever device you've got and you chill.
Hey
There's
guys,
no
I'm up
billboard,
20%
it's
on my.
thing.
Hang on, I want to hear Scald.
I'm up 20% on my spy puts. Those 397s that I said I'd buy at 20 cents or less, they filled at 20 cents. They went down to 19. They're trading at 24 cents a piece right now. It went right up to 401, pinged off of it right there. I was 1 cent below the reversal, and I'm up 20% already. If this goes up to 40%, I'm taking.
Congrats. Good move, man.
Well, hopefully additional darkness got out because he bought those calls at open. So I mean, he should be up on those. So depending on how he timed his trade, he could very well have already made his money for the day.
Nice.
It's 1 cent, really cutting it by the skin of its teeth.
Might be why we're not hearing from him right now.
Too busy jumping with joy.
Or
Nintendo's
buying
at
new TVs
1052.
with attendees.
I didn't trade SPY 0 DTEs because I was up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and on Friday I got destroyed on Friday of last week, and I was like, ugh. So and Monday and Tuesday this week I didn't trade SPY 0 DTEs. I was like, but I got to get back on the horse.
I actually didn't know that all 12 of those companies have to ratify that strike. So that
Right, but the other 8 that aren't necessarily on board are still willing to do it. They just want to wait an extra month. But I think that guy who said they'll all stand in solidarity is ultimately right.
yeah. I think there's plays to already be made. I just don't know what they are. Like we need to be looking at these trucking companies. I don't understand that shit well enough.
Sometimes the best play is to admit you just don't know the sector, right?
I don't. That's why I keep telling everybody about Nintendo.
Up 40% on SPY. It was a hard day's work, gentlemen. I'll see you all later.
Oh, very nice.
Good job, sir.
He's done for the day. Aren't we supposed to say something like, "Well, fuck
Fucking-
you, fuck you"?
Fucking
Then.
checked out. He went to the bar.
Then really, fuck you.
Hey, did anybody see like the day after the election? I don't know about your area, but I saw diesel go up 16 cents a gallon overnight. Has anybody seen it go up since then?
In South Jersey, we're still sitting at about $6 a gallon.
Yeah, we were $5.99 and went to $6.15, but it seems it's kind of sticking there. But yeah, keep that in consideration too. I know if this rail strike does happen, I mean, it has to be trucking plays, right? Or are we just gonna have like a collapse of society because no one's gonna be able to get anything? Like, I don't know.
It's not going to be that bad if you guys don't get your Christmas gifts. Come on. But Yeah,
Oh no, I'm talking, food deliveries. I mean, they do a lot more than just deliver stuff. They deliver.
So if anyone
I don't know.
wants another trucking play, you can look at Covenant Transport. It's barely above the market cap, so it's pretty small. They've had a pretty big run up though, but they might keep running. The ticker is CVLG. That's Charlie Victory Lima Gangbang.
Golf.
Nope. Gangbang is appropriate.
Also,
Hey
opinion,
guys.
way to not include Kwanzaa and Hanukkah gifts. All right, come on, this is seriously.
Yeah, I heard y'all talking about the trucking industry. I'm a truck driver, and we work with the Amazon. We do like street loads, and work with the Amazon, and the Amazon is paying shit to truck drivers right now. Like the average load is paying like $2.20 per mile, $2.50 per mile, while like 2 years ago or even like last year, they used to pay like $4 or $5 per mile. And diesel prices, they're like 5.20, 5.40 per gallon. Like the truckers, like they keep leaving right now, because the the pay is not really that good, and most of the truckers that left, they do like just like drive van loads. So
Hey,
the
I got a question for you. Sorry to interrupt.
no, it's all good.
How many miles per gallon do one of those big trucks get? Like 5?
No. If you truck is 5 gallons per mile, then you fucked. Like
Yeah,
you're
you
not
would
gonna
never
make
make it
money.
anywhere.
Yeah,
No,
you're
no.
not making money. The
Five
good
five
mile,
miles per gallon, not 5 gallons per mile. That'd be
yeah,
insane.
yeah, 5 miles per gallon, mom. Now,
Okay.
the good thing, the good standard is like 8 or 9 miles per gallon. Like it's
I
pretty
thought they were
cool.
up to 12.
Yeah, they go up to 12, but most of the trucks they're not that good. Even like
How many
11 is perfect.
how many gallons do you guys have? Like if you do a full fill up?
700 or 1,000? Is it?
Nah, it's not. It's not seven. I think it's around like 400, 300. It depends on the truck too.
I was gonna
Like
say the new
different
truck,
trucks.
12 miles a gallon. I think they're at like 700.
Yeah. I haven't seen those. Yeah, probably.
So would you say roughly on a fill up you can go between 2,500 and 3,000 miles?
No, 2,000 miles. Less than 2,000
Okay.
miles.
Yeah, because of idling and all that stuff too. I
Yeah.
figured that it's not just straight driving all the time. Okay.
Yeah, and the like big companies, like the big proper companies that like have their own stock, they pay their drivers. There's also like lease. There's companies that lease the truck to truck drivers, and there's companies that just get the just regular truck drivers as like a W. Is it called W-2? I like where they just hire the driver and give them benefits like just a regular driver and just pay them like salary.
Yeah, you'd get a W-2 with that, but if
You
you're like an
salary?
independent contractor, that's a 1099.
How much does
Yeah.
it cost to fill up your truck?
If it's empty to fill it completely, it's around like $800, $900.
Yeah.
You can go
So
up to 1,000.
I'm just doing some rough math here. It's like $5 a gallon where I'm at. The whole idea that I've got in my head is that if the railroad's going to at least take a hit and trucking is going to pick up, then, just based on the volume of diesel, I feel like we should see diesel go up. Gas?
It doesn't. It
Train
doesn't.
use an insane amount of diesel because they have a giant diesel engine inside the freight engine that's driving a giant
Fair enough.
electric generator.
Yeah, you're right. We should probably use a net less diesel. Yeah, fair enough.
But I think the trains they already got a deal. Like they get a diesel by like reduced price or like the wholesale price or something like that. Because I think those companies they already have like contracts with the
Yeah, they buy it. I think a year in advance, or they buy so many blocks, whatever, for 2023 or 2024.
Yeah, so it's different for like the trucking industry and like trains. Trains all like they always been the same. I don't think the train industry changed that much since it started.
I put a list of trucking tickers in Discord.
Yeah, but I
I do
don't
know they don't
trust.
let them drive more than 8 hours. At 8 hours, they have them pull that train immediately over and get off.
Wait, the train or the truck?
The on the truck, it's like it's 11 hour. You have like 14 hour shift, and you can only drive 11 hours. It's like
Yeah,
an ELD mandate.
trains are only 8 hours. I do know that. My first sergeant, he became sergeant major, was a train operator. Sergeant Major Skinner. He's cool as hell. Man.
I want to believe everything you're saying, but it's like
I choose to believe. Let
I
this be
am.
reality.
I'm choosing to believe, but it's like
So I have a serious theory for you guys.
Me? Yeah, all you gotta do is look up Sergeant Major Skinner in the Texas National Guard. That was my unit. He was my first sergeant. Got promoted to sergeant major of the Texas National Guard there during the tail end of Katrina and then the hurricanes that hit Texas. That's where I did my 8 years. But yeah, all factual, my friend.
Back to this everything that's going on right now. It doesn't look like fuel prices are going down anymore. Did OPEC cut back on oil production yet? Does anybody know? Was that this month or next month? I can't remember.
I think they're meeting at the December 3rd or something like that.
Okay, so it doesn't look like fuel prices are going down, and if fuel prices are still high, inflation's not going anywhere. I know interest rates are doing a little bit here and there, but I feel like for the long term, we are going to be stuck with these high prices. And also, it really hasn't been super cooled for any long stretch of time. So I live in Pittsburgh, PA, and it has been cold probably like the last week. It was like 20 degrees for a high on Saturday and Sunday. And, but it's going to be like 60 this weekend. So we really haven't been super cold for a long stretch. And I know with cold weather, you'll be running your furnace a lot more. And I mean, we were already told by our gas company and our power company that prices are going to go up because we're on like a budget for both. And I think our electric bill went up like $15. And the gas bill started going up in September. Like they raised it 50 just to compensate for everything. But
Can you use the Crisco candle heater method?
what's up?
Can you use the Crisco candle heater method?
Never thought of that. I usually just well, we don't have to get into that. Never mind. But yeah, does anybody see any kind of relief coming if gas prices aren't going down? Because I don't think so. I mean, food's still expensive as hell.
Additional sanctions on Russia next month? Like that's when their full oil embargo goes into effect.
Yeah, and then won't we be super fucked? Like, I can see gas prices being high like they were this summer again, no doubt. Like I got to put premium in both of my cars. Luckily, my wife's car doesn't take it, but I know in the summer I started driving her car because she works from home because it was almost $6 a gallon for premium up here. So I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about what's coming, but that's just me. So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Well, luckily last year we were able to get gas run to our house, so we got a brand new heat pump with a high efficiency gas backup. My neighbor across the street still has oil heat, and last month he was telling me that it's way up over $6 a gallon for heating oil, which really sucks.
On YouTube, they've got you basically take a candle, or they use Crisco and a birthday candle, and you put it in a glass jar anyway, and then you put it over a ceramic pot over it, and then you use a elbow from the HVAC. Anyway, you look on YouTube, you can heat up a whole room for 3 or 4 days with a candle, with 2 candles. Don't believe me? Check it out on YouTube then. You got tons of videos.
No, I believe you.
Just like the gas vape videos. You got tons of those where you got Hummers going almost 30 miles a gallon. A Hummer that was only 7 miles a gallon. They got up to 30. Like, what? Yep.
So I'm not finding an ETF that's specific to trucking. All the ETFs seem to have rail in them. Does anybody know of an ETF that's specific to trucking?
I feel like we've had that question asked many times, and the answer has
Yeah.
always been there's something mixed in.
Yeah, I think the answer is
Yeah.
no.
Oh no, I was just agreeing. Yeah, I mean, you just gotta do them individually.
You can, though, use those ETFs to build your own ETF just based on the trucking ones that are in there.
How I feel like that might be more complex.
I mean, just buy shares in those companies and match the weighting to how they do it if you want to. It's complicated, but if there's no ETF, you just piece it together yourself.
And the thing about the Amazon that's going on right now, like since the last year, they started doing their own freight. Like they got the like bunch of couple thousand trucks, and now they're using the little box trucks to deliver loads instead of like big semi trucks. And they like paying way less to like semi trucks, and they're just doing their own loads. And they outsource the whole dispatch system to India. So whenever like you a truck driver and you call Amazon, there's some Indian guy just answering the phone. So they cutting back on all the expenses right now.
The Tesla tractor trailers are supposed to be starting to get delivered. How long do we think it's going to be until they start making any kind of headway as far as, I don't know, consumption of diesel going down across the country?
I think they already have those Tesla trucks working in California. I got a friend, a truck driver. He's in California right now, and he told me he saw a couple Tesla trucks on the road.
You're not talking about the Cybertruck, right? This is a completely different thing.
No.
Okay. I was
Tesla
going to say, did that sneak out on me?
Yeah, no, I don't think they're doing those. But the semi truck of Tesla, they already on the roads. I think they're already doing the loads. It's just they just in California, but they might start like expanding because those are day caps, and drivers cannot like stay in the truck. They just drive them throughout the day and then just go home at night.
There's got to be like millions of trucks on the road in this country. I mean, the Tesla trucks are going to be a drop in the bucket, if even a drop.
Yeah, but because they're like so cost effective, and the diesel is keep going up, I think most of the truck company, like big truck companies, will start like investing in them for sure.
The issue with those are going to be infrastructure related.
Yeah.
Like, where are you going to have a setup to, let's say you've got a fleet of 30 of those, whatever, where are you going to have a setup to be able to charge all 30 of those consistently?
But how long did it took for Tesla to build a supercharger, like charging stations? I think they can just add it like at Lowe's or like pilot at regular truck stops. Like I think that Tesla can make a deal with like Lowe's or like big truck stops and just like add a couple charging stations. I don't think that's gonna be a big problem for them. They just
But the amount of energy you would need to charge, let's say you're parking like just 2 trucks there, right? Because we had that guy who said like just charging 2 Taycans caused a problem for him. If you've got 2 trucks there, you are going to be taxing that energy grid versus if you're just putting in 2 Tesla charging stations there, right?
Here's the other thing. The way, from what I remember reading on these semis from Tesla, the way it's designed is the battery has enough capacity for the truck to go for the amount of hours that a driver is legally allowed to drive, and it takes the same amount of time that you're required to be off the road to recharge it.
Yeah, probably.
One other
Yes.
thing with this too is with electric vehicles, yeah, you get a lot of torque on them, but the more load that you put on that electric battery, the less distance and range that you get out of it. And so they have to be recharging more frequently, especially cross country or whatever. So I don't know if they've figured that out yet or how they're dealing with it with a truck size, 20,000 pounds.
Well, I
I'm
would
not
guess
sure.
they would just take lighter freight.
Yeah, it's the same on regular trucks. Like the heavier your load is, the more diesel you have to stop more frequently. I think they're just gonna stop more, but on the but it costs more for the regular diesel trucks to, like, maximum weight you can get is like 45,000 pounds, and most of the truck drivers, they don't even get close to that. Like, I usually get like 3 4 or like maximum 25,000 pounds like each day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the other big thing with these Tesla semis is they're very expensive, but you're saving on the back end maintenance because they barely wear the brakes because they use regenerative braking, which is using the electric motors to slow the truck down. There's no transmission to service, there's no oil changes, there's no cooling systems technically, so you're saving a small fortune just on fleet maintenance.
Yeah, and that's true. I work in the auto industry, and F-150 Lightnings, you get a lot of torque out of them, but you're also going to deplete your battery way quicker if you start putting load on it. And so those trucks being like 300 miles per charge or whatever, you start putting load on it, it drastically, like it turns into like 80 miles or 70 miles. So that was just, I'm not sure how the Tesla trucks work, but I imagine that they're going to be dealing with the same issues too. And then, recharging that on the road, how long does it takes like 20 minutes fast charge for a Tesla car. How long is that going to take for a truck that needs to go hundreds of miles?
Yeah, it's not going to charge that fast. Truck driver guy, how long of a layover do you have to take? Is it like 4 hours or 6 hours?
It's 10 hours.
So that's how long it's probably going to take to charge. Because when
Yeah,
I read initially on this, if you're allowed to drive 10 hours, the battery should last you the amount of miles you can legally drive in 10 hours.
yeah.
And then you have to lay over. So that's how long it's supposed to take to fully charge it back up again. So the battery's got to be massive on these things.
Yeah.
We're talking about 18-wheeler, like electric 18-wheelers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my question was, where's the battery coming from? Like, who's selling these batteries?
Whoever Tesla gets them from, I don't know.
They got a battery facility in Reno that they manufacture them there. I know that's one of them. I know there's a couple other ones too.
But yeah, the whole trucking industry is pretty bad right now because there's not that much freight that coming from China. Uh, I think there's like something going on in China that they like messing up, closing the factories and stuff.
It's the COVID pandemic, right? Like the whole lockdown.
Yeah, probably all that, and because of that, the Amazon is not being able to like sell a lot of like products and stuff. So there's not much freight that's coming over, and truckers, like 2 years ago, you usually like paying the payment per week used to be like 5 6 thousand like per week. Sometimes you might get like 10 15,000 per week, and right now most of the truckers, they getting paid like 1,500 2,000. Maximum is like 3,000 per week. and there's also a shortage in the trucking industry of truckers, and a lot of like if you ask a lot of different trucking companies, they hiring and they just like try to fight for the like a new truckers, but because they don't pay that well, and they're like the contracts with them is pretty bad, so most of the truckers they just work with the person they know or their friends and stuff like that. So most of the truckers are actually immigrants, and I think it's about 70 or 80%.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying earlier. And they all run through brokers. And like I said, a lot of these guys, they don't speak English. They can't read English. They just show up and they hold their phone out and they want you to talk to the broker. And then the
Yeah.
broker translates. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I can confirm that also.
Yeah,
So
and
are those guys unionized though? Like these guys who are
So
clearly
that's what I'm
fresh
saying.
immigrants, are they
That's what I'm
part of
saying,
the
right?
union or are they just
It-
like grab them on, put them in a truck? Who cares if they
They
do
just
it?
grab them and put them in a
Yeah.
truck, and who cares? They're not allowed to have CBs in the trucks to communicate with each other because they're all getting screwed. They're not getting paid squat, and they don't want the drivers talking to each other to find out how bad somebody's getting screwed versus somebody else.
Yeah, no, the drivers talk to each other most of the time. Like, I'm in a couple Facebook groups, I'm in Telegram groups, but there's a like a certain like new generation of truckers and the old generation. Like the older generation is the like who's been driving for like 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and they do have those CB radios, but I don't think they use them anymore right now. They have those, but most of the time they don't even use them. They just go to Facebook, and because like the trucking industry is like so diverse, there's like different type because there's immigrants and there's also like old school Americans, like who's like Republican as hell, like conservative as hell.
Yeah.
And so that's why you cannot have a union when the people like in the industry hate each other, and there's like a like big ass diversity. Uh, but if I don't think they can unionize because everybody, like every truck driver, just thinks about themselves and about the money, about their gross income and stuff like that. So
I
they
think
not.
there's that like we all want to think about it like that old convoy thing. You know what I mean? Like I know the song. If you're American, you probably know the song, right? And I think that most Americans want to think of trucking like that, like these old fat white guys with tattoos honking their horns and they're all in a big convoy down I-40, right? But that's not what it is anymore.
Yeah, it's not that. It's an industry. It's like a very competitive industry. You have to make a gross income like every week. You have to keep taking freights. It's just like nonstop work for you.
Hey, can I butt in here? Good morning. I'm a truck driver too. Been a truck driver for 30 years. Actually, been sidelined here for the last year because I got sick. But the brokers control the industry. The brokers make all the money. It's not like the freight is really cheap. The brokers get a high payment for the freight. They just give it to the lowest denominator, the person that will do it for nothing, and the person that's doing it that doesn't know that they're not making money. That's the problem in the industry is the brokers, the people that are controlling the work. And these guys that come in and somebody tells them, even a lot of these big companies are, you know, selling them a truck and telling them they're going to make a bunch of money. And all they do is just run them to death, and they never make any money. They never own the truck. They have all these get rich programs, and it never happens. And it's a really messed up industry. And
So they're basically doing like the coal mining towns used to do, where the coal mining company owned everything, and they get immigrants to come in and
yes,
work, and you have to do everything has to go through the quote unquote store owned by the mining company. So you're basically stuck as an indentured servant because
Yeah,
you'll never get yourself out of debt and you never own anything.
yeah, for sure. Not it's you're not getting in debt. It's just if you're smart, you can make money. But most of the like companies, they don't say that. but they work illegally sometimes. They make like bad moves, and sometimes they just keep the salaries of the truck drivers. So, for example, if they get a freight for like $2,000, they just tell their driver, "Oh, we got a freight for like 1,800 or like $1,500," and just keep $500. I used to work as a dispatcher, and I seen that shit happen, where they like just keep the like portion of the money from the freight. So that shit definitely happens, and the brokers too, they keep a big chunk of money that customers pay to get their freight delivered. So it's really bad industry. You just got to be careful.
I will say that I was talking about somebody that I know that works in this industry in logistics. She worked for 3PLs, which is the broker, I believe, which is what you were saying, is the group that's walking away with some money. I can say that the people that she worked with are highly toxic people. Like they're the kind of people that would take a couple of $1,000s or something from somebody and not give a shit about it. But there is a group in there that she ascribes to, I guess, and that group is more fair, right? Like they're going to give that money back to the driver. They're going to not give it back to the company when they get the opportunity to. And so you do have both, but more often than not, what I'm seeing is that those companies are toxic like that. Like they're going to do their best to take something out of somebody's pocket and put it in their own.
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to say too, with the talk about this rail strike and everything, and you're looking for trucking plays, there's no capacity in the trucking. Anybody, they can't handle, even with the way things are
Yeah.
down so bad, they still can't handle what they've got because there is such a shortage of drivers, and it's a pretty long process to train somebody and to get them into a truck and keep them. It's very hard to keep them because they do, as soon as they get their license or get trained and get any kind of experience, they can go anywhere they want. So everybody's always looking for the next best thing, and people just can't keep drivers, and they won't pay. I mean, the pay is coming up. They are trying to do more things to keep drivers, but it's still not working. And
Yeah.
when it comes to the trucks too with fuel, I personally, I don't think the battery thing is ever going to work in a truck. I know I mainly haul cars, and I work for Toyota, or we work with my company hauls for Toyota. Toyota is hydrogen. They're doing hydrogen trucks. They're putting in hydrogen there in Georgetown, Kentucky, where the Camry plant is. They've got a right across the street from the big truck stop that's there. They put in a hydrogen fueling operation for trucks because they're trying to convert all their suppliers that are bringing parts and everything to that factory to run on hydrogen. And I think whenever the battery thing blows up, I mean, I think hydrogen is the only logical direction that any of this is going into.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, the Amazon have the same thing. If you go to Amazon warehouses, they have a hydrogen tank most of the time. But the hydrogen is for the short mile loads. You cannot have like a. It's gonna cost a lot of money to just build a hydrogen the fueling stations like throughout America.
Are you still in the automotive industry?
Yes.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
Capitalism, bro. Capitalism.
I work for Porsche, and yeah.
I fucking love Porsches, dude. That car is an amazing. The rack and pinion, the handle, the steering. It's the first car that a friend Ron Redden had a 944 turbo, the little twin turbo, and man, that car was one of the baddest cars I like to drive, other than the Cabriolet or the 35. But that some bitch would hug those roads. That's
Tell you
one
what.
thing I love Porsche.
Hey, I
This
just
man.
I haven't done any like research or anything, but anyway, the only trucking companies that actually have a good reputation, like in the freight business, and are actually growing and actually hiring drivers, is ABF, and it is a union company. They're making money. In regards to any other freight company out there, they're making money. I can tell you, I know a car hauling company called Jack Cooper Transport that's on their way out of business. But they've been trying, because they're a union company as well, but their whole purpose was what they did was 5 or 6 years ago they came in and they bought the biggest car hauling union company that they could, and ever since then they've just been killing it. They just keep on shutting terminals down and purposely losing work. because this guy he just wants to he's destroying the Teamsters in the car hauling business. He's in the business. So we're down to, 2 union companies left in car hauling, which it used to be 100% union. It never used to be any non-union in it at all. But now it's totally flipped upside down, and he's getting ready to go out of business very, very shortly. They just shut down everything on the East Coast. They're shutting down Baltimore, and this actually, I think yesterday or today is their last day. And they just lost all the work out of the Georgetown, Kentucky plant that they hauled. We hauled everything within a 500-mile radius of the plant. Everything else that's more than 500 miles goes on the train. And yeah, if the train's shut down for the, as bad as the car industry is right now, if the train's shut down, there's nobody to show up at those factories to pick those cars up. They're just not. They'll get made, but there's nobody going to pick them up with any kind of efficiency. And they can't, and the manufacturers won't pay what it costs to truck them, because it costs so much more to truck it than it does to put it on the rail. I mean, the rail has taken so much of our business, our long haul business, because they can do it so much cheaper than we can do it. And at diesel at $6 a gallon, and we carry 300 gallons of fuel. I'm usually maxed out at 80,000 pounds, 79,000, and 300 gallons is only getting me. And we have newer trucks. I mean, we're getting good fuel mileage. We might be getting, 7 or 8 miles a gallon, and I'm getting like maybe 650 miles out of that. And you're looking almost $2,000 to fill the truck up.
If I can just say something to the point everyone keeps making about how, if the rails go on strike, it doesn't matter because the truckers are already working at capacity. There's no more freight they can take. Well, so what? I mean, if all of a sudden the rails are on strike, the trucking companies are going to start getting way more money per load. It's simple supply and demand, right?
Right,
So
but the thing is
margins are
that
gonna shoot
the
way up.
drivers, the money per load doesn't matter unless you can move the load, right? And so if if we're already fucking maxed out and now we're about to have this huge influx, there's nobody to cover the loads. And
Well,
I think
that's what I'm saying.
Here is saying is that nobody else.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The amount of money that the trucks are going to get per load, the amount of money is going to shoot way up. Okay, it's supply and demand. So the trucking companies are going to be making way more money in profit per load.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I think the brokerage is a good point, because I think what we're actually going to see is a lot of that money that you're talking about. Sure, you're right. It is going to go up, but I think a lot of that's going to end up in the hands of the brokerage, and the truck drivers aren't going to see a lot of it. And so if that plays out that way, what we're going to see on that side is more of the same shit, right? Like, we might as well have a truck strike at that point.
Yeah, that's a fair point. What I was kind of getting at is, like, it would be good for the trucking stocks. So are you saying that the brokers, like, they're not publicly traded, that's so we're not going to get any benefit from it?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. They're 3PL companies. They're third-party logistics companies. When you guys say brokers, to me, that's what you're saying. It's the people that, like, they have people come in and say, hey, we've got this load of thing, whatever. And then that 3PL company is going to reach out to a truck driving company or something like that and say, hey, we got this load. This is the price for it. We can do this, we can do that. And then they negotiate and set up the thing. Dude comes pick up the thing, whatever, right?
Oh yeah, the big trucking, the big brokerage companies, they also are big trucking companies. There's like a Schneider, JB Hunt, I think so, and they have their own brokers inside the firm, so they work from the JB Hunt, and because they have so many trailers, so many truck drivers, they manage their own stuff, and whatever they have left, like the freight, they just give to other truck companies. And the
Yep.
Amazon itself too, they are their own broker.
Yeah, you'll have that a lot. You'll have a lot of these companies, they'll take on freight. They know they have no way of delivering it, but they just grab the freight. They'll just say, "Oh yeah, we'll take the freight. We'll take the freight." And they'll take the cream off the top or whatever, and then they'll just take they'll just take the rest of it, and then they just turn around and put it out on load boards and stuff like that at the lowest price that they can. until they have to move it themselves because they've already accepted the freight, they'll start to raise the price on it to try to get some poor bastard to say, well, I'm stuck here and I need to go somewhere, so I'll put this on my truck and just I'll pay for the fuel. And he's not making, he's just not making any money. He's working his ass off and working like crazy, and he's just getting by, and he doesn't even know it. That's the frustrating thing about it is you got these guys doing this freight, and they're working like crazy. I don't care who they are, where they come from, they're here working, and they're not making money, and they won't
Nah,
listen. You can't talk to them, you can't tell them anything, and it's just they're
it's
whatever
kind of
whatever they do get, they're sending it back home or they're sending it somewhere else
So
because it's a lot better here than it is in a whole hell of a lot of other places. Because
yeah, but
what I think is good and what that guy next to me thinks is good is two totally different things.
yeah,
one
but
thing that I will point out here is that I vape, I buy vape stuff, I do Delta 8 stuff, I buy dabs, all that shit, right? So I go to these smoke shops. And I know it doesn't seem relevant, but what's happening is that I have two different smoke shops that I go to. One is crewed by like a white family, like they own that place. It's like an American white, normal people. And then the other is a chain place that's owned by immigrants. It's interesting as hell because if I go to the white place and I buy the stuff that I buy, I'm going to pay like $60 for that thing. But if I go to the Indian chain, I'm going to pay like 20. And so the point to that is that when you're talking about these immigrants that are coming in, they're like, I don't make any money. To them, they're making money. Like they're happy because they can sell that thing to me for $20, where the other place is going to sell it for 60, and they're not going to miss that money, right? To them, they're making plenty.
So does that mean like changes to immigration policy could be
That's
really
what I'm
dangerous to
saying.
trucking?
It really depends. Like when the shit hits the fan and this gets thick, right? We already have a bunch of immigrants that are driving trucks. What we're saying here is it depends on which party is in power, because if we hit a place where the shit gets really thick and we're not moving stuff, then we know the old white guys that are making $100,000 a year, they're not going to pick up the slack because they're all entitled. They're not going to do it. So who's going to do it? It's the immigrant population that's driving the trucks already. So it depends on which party is in power as to whether or not we will get more of those people. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I don't even think I'm entitled. But man, if I'm not making 100 grand a year,
Yeah.
I'm
No,
not
I'm not
doing
saying
it.
you're entitled. Don't get me
Oh
wrong.
no, I'm not. No, I don't take offense to that. You're exactly right what you're saying, and that's the whole thing. It's like, hey, look, I get paid what I'm worth, and believe me, I've been out sick for a year, and they've held my job for me. They're dying for me to come back. Tell me, they're just like, I can't believe they haven't let me go. That they haven't just like kicked me to the curb. No, they've paid my insurance. They've done everything. They've been fantastic to me, and they want me back as soon as they can get me because they've got a truck there that they can't put nobody into, and they can't train anybody to do it. They can't get anybody who wants to work, and they know that I show up every day and I do my work and I don't damage any cars, and I'm good at what I do, and they
yeah,
pay me very well. I'm actually working for a non. I've been union for 30 years. I'm working for a non-union company now because I don't have any other choices. I have to work for a non-union company, but at least the company that I'm working for recognizes what my value is, and they pay me well enough for me to stay there.
So let me ask you this.
yeah,
Does that company that you're working for have both people like you and also immigrants?
Yes, they do.
Are
yeah.
those
I don't
They
think
never. I'm
it's
gonna be honest with you.
the
Everybody
whole
out there wants to
issue.
make more money. Everybody wants to make more money, and everybody's always looking for the next best thing. So, traditionally, Carhan has been one of the highest paying, you know, jobs in the trucking industry. I mean, I make what an owner operator is trying to, I make that per mile as a company driver. I have no costs. I have no overhead or anything, and I'm making $1.50 a mile. There's guys out there running a truck that are having to put fuel in it and have to do all this other stuff that are probably, they might be making $2 a mile, but they're not making any more.
Yeah,
I don't have any maintenance. I don't have any overhead. I don't have any, I don't have any of these things, and I'm making more money than they are, a whole lot more money.
yeah, that's
And
true.
and less, and I just park the truck and get out when I'm done. I don't even have to work a certain amount of hours because I'm efficient. I'm fast. I can go do it. I do my work. I can do something. I can do something in 8 hours. It could take 14 hours for somebody else. And we get paid by the mile. We get paid for the work that we do. We don't get paid for doing nothing. We get paid for putting cars on the ground. So, I make $300 a day, and I go home, and I typically work about 6 hours a day. I don't have to work like crazy. And I can whenever I want. The work's there. I can work as much as I want. And that's the great thing about my job is like I can do it
So,
when I want to do it, and I can do it,
And
are you recruiting for the trucking industry?
No, I'm not. No, I
yeah,
wouldn't
they
recommend it. I don't
always,
think it's a
bro,
good. I don't think it's a good.
always.
I'm glad that my time is almost up. To be honest with you.
And then going back to the issue, I don't think this is the problem about immigrants or like the old school truck drivers or whoever that is. I think this is like systemic problem that because there's no unions and there's no like talk or like anything between truck drivers themselves, but because the the immigrants, anybody can come in and just get a load for like hella cheap, and the broker will always go for them. So the truck drivers have to like talk within themselves and like unionize, so they just everybody just get a decent load, and nobody gets a cheap load, because when you get a cheap load, you're not making that much money. So for everybody to make a decent money, the truck drivers have to unionize and talk to even more. He's saying he worked like 6 7 hours. I worked 14 hours yesterday, and the problem is uh because there's no unions or no like like standard stuff like laws or anything like regulations. The regulations about ELD about 14 hours per day. I have two ELDs and I'm just work by myself. I have two logbooks. Uh, and then most of the truck drivers, most of the like even immigrants, even like Americans, it doesn't matter. Whoever wants to make more money, they have to do those stuff. So it's pretty easy to go around the regulations for truck drivers.
Are you on the digital log yet, or are you still using the paper?
Yeah, I'm on the digital log. Yeah.
Is that as intrusive? I've heard that's incredibly intrusive for you guys.
No, not really. It's just the iPad, and there's like you just have hours in it and stuff like that, and you just it's not intrusive. It's more about taking care of your health because you can only drive 8 hours. You have to stop and take a break for 30 minutes, and you can keep driving for I think it's 4 more hours. So it's just regular in regular 6 to 4 job or any other job like that.
I'm with you. I do have a question. I don't know if anybody knows or not. My partner, my girlfriend, I don't know what I call this person. She worked in logistics for a long time. She's the person that I reference when I talk about the person that worked in logistics and understands all this stuff. Uh, she she's concerned about like drivers not picking up loads because they're not costly enough. Like they're not making money off of them, so the loads are going to be there, but people aren't going to pick it up. Do you see that in the industry where like a lot of these, not necessarily the old school guys, but a lot of the new school guys are refusing to pick up loads, or all those guys just like whatever, I'll take whatever?
Oh yeah, for sure, and it depends too on the. I lease my truck. I pay fixed amount of money every week, so no matter if I do the load or I don't do the load, I still have to pay for the truck. So there's a company drivers who don't have to pay the load for the truck, and they just get fixed amount of money per week. So that also makes you like think, oh, I don't have to do this load. I'm still getting paid the same. Oh, and stuff like that. So I think it just depends on the truckers themselves. That's why there have to be union. There have to be like more regulations for the truck drivers.
Hey, look, I just want to say there is unions. There's the Teamsters is the biggest.
Yeah, but those are company unions, like certain company. I'm talking about the whole industrialized, like everybody in the industry.
All right. This is my last question. Last line of thought here is I'm aware that there's a single piece of software. I don't know what it is. I don't know what company manages that software, but that one piece of software, which apparently is a piece of shit piece of software, is responsible for all the loads, like for the 3PLs and brokerages and stuff to pick up. Does anybody know anything about that software or what company that is or anything? I can find out. I'll bring that back tomorrow, but I was hoping maybe somebody knew.
I'm not sure what kind of software you're talking about, but when you get a load from different brokers from different companies, they make you download certain apps so they can track you, and they can like you just check in, check out, send the documents on the app, and some of the apps they pretty shitty, and they track you even when you turn them off. So you have to like delete the app completely to get rid of that.
I'm with you. This is like the interface that the brokerage is going to go and see all the listed loads on. Does it make sense? Like if I'm a company and I'm trying to sell, I'm trying to ship something, then I can go to
Oh,
this website and list it, and then the brokerage will pick it up.
yeah, there's a. I think
It's called Blue Jay.
yeah, there's a website for certain loads where the different companies book their loads, and there's different websites for that. But there's a biggest one where most of the truck companies sits and most of the brokers sits there. I forgot the name.
Yeah, I think that's what
It's
I'm
called
looking
Blue
for.
Jay, and the industry literally refers to it as an operating system.
Yeah, that's where you find the loads, where you book the loads. But the website itself is pretty shitty. It's like
Yeah. So that's what she's telling me is that shit'll go down. Like that website will go down for a day or something, and literally, I mean, you're talking about like probably 200, 300, maybe 1,000 companies can't book loads because one website went down. Apparently, it happens all the time.
Is it publicly traded or
That's
does
what
it
I'm
have?
trying. I'm trying to sort all that out. Like she knows all this shit, but she left, so I got to talk to
nah,
her.
as long as you have MC dot, it's every company have to have that number for the identification. You can sign up on that website, and
Yeah.
I don't remember if you have to pay fee or not. But the website itself, when you look at the load, it doesn't give you any like much information how much it pays. Sometimes it shows which city it picks up, which city it goes to, how many miles. But you have to call the number and talk to the broker, and it's more like a barter system. Like you just barter with the broker. Oh, I'll pay me this, and he said, no, I'll pay you this. And it's like hella old school. But Amazon have this system where uh you just go to their, like, it's called relay, you go to their website, you don't talk to anybody, and whatever however much it says, like the price it says there, that's how much they're going to pay you. And it's up to you if you want to book it or not. You book it and it automatically goes to your phone.
Wait. You're saying Amazon has like a brokerage site now?
Yep, it's called relay.
So okay, because that's a big deal. You're saying to me that now there is an interface at Amazon where you as a truck driver or you as a brokerage company can go to Amazon and find loads and not negotiate the prices. You just take the fixed price, right?
Yeah, you cannot negotiate the price, never.
That's how much are you guys using that? That's a big fucking deal.
uh it's every company that hauls for Amazon, like the Amazon trailers, every big company, they use that.
So it's just Amazon loads though, right?
Yeah, it's just for
Yeah,
Amazon.
okay. That changes things. I thought they were doing like a brokerage website.
Amazon have their own thing. So the companies that work with Amazon, most of the time, they work only with Amazon.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And they go bobtail. They don't haul any trailers. They just go bobtail, and they just go pick up the trailer, go drop it off somewhere. Amazon have a lot of warehouses throughout America. Like it's crazy.
And what you're saying is that company has the lockdown based on that software that your transportation company.
Oh yeah, and they control the market pretty much, but at the same time,
Not Amazon. The other gentleman that was saying that a brokerage app that could basically be competition to the current one he's using would fucking kill it. In other words.
Well, so yes, what the market I think is missing right now for anybody who may be interested is they have a piece of software. Apparently, maybe there's a couple of pieces of software where you can go and find loads that are listed and call the brokerages and negotiate and whatever. But those interfaces that currently exist are lacking at best. Like they're terrible. Apparently, the infrastructure goes down all the time and stuff like that. And so
I think, yes, if you're in the software engineering industry, there is a very big opportunity for you to recreate that thing. But for me, as a talking to you guys financially, I want to know, to Opinion's point, is this a publicly traded company and can I fuck with it? Because if the railway shuts down, then that brokerage website that handles those loads should pop off, right? And you should see that company go up, I would think. If
Provided
You know
that
the
they
thing
don't
about
get
is,
orders and that it crashes their system, they can.
well, I mean, it's gonna fucking crash. That's the thing.
yeah, most of the time, those companies they're not gonna be in America. I can promise you that. They outsource them to some like third world country where there's in Belarus, even like in Ukraine and Belarus, there's a lot of programmers who's like been on outsource for like Blizzard and Activision, like for like different type of companies, because for American companies, it's cheaper to just outsource
Yeah.
those projects to like outside to like third world countries and pay them less because they're contractors and they don't have to pay them a lot, and then pay them benefits and stuff like that. So those companies that do those software stuff, they're not gonna be in America, and if they are in America, they're gonna be like already big companies like Facebook, Google. They have their own like software department.
What I can say is that based on my understanding of this website, or I guess this service, because apparently there's a couple of them, but the major one, again, has problems all the time and it's old technology. And so what I've started to realize in learning about this platform is that it's a massive national security risk because it's a piece of shit website, like literal trash, and it's powering just about all of our freight, right? Like moving freight via truck.
What's the site name?
I think somebody said it was Blue Jay. That sounds right, but I'm not sure off the top of my head. I got to confirm it and bring it back. But
Yeah,
the thing is if you start fucking with this thing, like if somebody brought this website down for some reason, then you're talking about literally all trucking pretty much stopping in America.
Yeah, most of it's gonna stop. But there's a lot of conservatives in that industry, so I don't think they're gonna change it. Pretty much like proactively, they're gonna change it whenever that shit goes down.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like anything in America, like whenever the shit goes bad, people try to fix it, not before it goes bad.
So the play.
You got to sway public opinion. You know, you can't have $20 million to go rebuild your dams down in New Orleans until a couple people die.
Hey, listen, I've been wanting to say this for a minute. Whenever you want to get together and blow some shit up, bro, I got you. Let's do it.
Me too, man. I'll go with y'all.
You just sound like a motherfucker that's ready to blow some shit up. Like you got Tannerite in your shop, don't you?
No, I don't even know what that is, man.
Oh, come on. No, you know what it is. Don't bullshit me.
He just calls it something different, bro.
Yeah, he calls it TNT.
Fertilizer.
Oh, see, nope, I didn't even know that. No, I got a 22 with the clip on it. You know, that's it.
Do you have explosives?
No.
Okay, I'm thoroughly disappointed. Your voice and your avatar says you should have explosives.
My voice of avatar. Why? And that's the thing. I didn't know how to pick this fucking avatar either. I was like, it came up. It was like, hey, you know, you want to be patriotic or some shit about FIFA or something. And I was like, I guess because, you know, that shows support. So, you know, I fly my flag in the front yard and I got a light on it at nighttime. So, you know, I do my part.
Fair enough, man. Do we want to move on from the railroad? Does anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I had a quick question. So
You are a saint for holding on to that question. Go on.
Yeah, well, you know.
Well, I was just curious about one thing. What do you think the chances are that if the strike does happen, like the Biden administration could just be like, yeah, you're not allowed to do that. Like up in Canada, there was some big strike and they said, yeah, you're not allowed to strike.
I mean, they already have.
Yeah, they always. There's been a strike a couple times from the truck.
Power to the people is what that's called.
With the railroad,
Come on, guys.
the president
Let
force them back
Let's
to work,
psychological.
but only for 14 or 19 days, and then they can go right back on strike, and the government cannot force them back to work after that.
Let psychological ask his question. I think he's
Yeah,
It's
Go
the
ahead, Psych.
Railway Act of 1926 that you want to read up on.
that gives Congress the power to step in. But with the way Congress moves, that's going to be what, 2 years before they step in.
All right, thanks, Striking. Psychological, go ahead.
Yeah. So my dad is in Minnesota, and he had a commercial license, and they went through and revoked a bunch of foreigners' licenses, commercial licenses. Has anybody else seen that happen? He is a U.S. citizen born abroad.
I know.
So basically, they basically what their thesis was that foreigners were coming in saying they had experience driving trucks, and they got in a bunch of accidents.
All right, let's get off this foreigner subject. It's getting a little weird. Let's get more market related. Sorry, guys.
So I have a possible play.
What do you got?
Let's hear it.
All right. So I've actually posted yesterday because I was actually in and out of meetings. I mean the health department. So, for those that are not living in America, EPA is the Environmental Protection Agency, and they've been doing a lot of these regulatory changes on lead in water, in drinking water. I actually posted on the comments section. I'm a little under the weather. So I forgot, it's like the Lead and Copper Act, and the memo was published in August 4th of 2022. So basically, they were lowering the amount of lead allowable in drinking waters. And recently, there's like a huge fucking blow up in the state of Delaware for unacceptable amount of lead in the drinking waters in the public school system. And a lot of the samples were taken from water fountains and gyms. For those, that kind of sees where that could be a problem, and especially with some of the lower IQ and increased autism. As I see a lot of increased autistic posts on here. I'm just joking. But so with that said, I've been trying to do research on the infrastructure bill, and I did see that Congress is looking into putting money into the water infrastructure. But I have no idea who the fuck makes these fitting pipes. I'm not a plumber, but all I know is that everybody's scrambling for these fucking funds to basically to be first in line to get plumbing outfitted for drinking water. The only stock I can think of is like AWR. It's like the American Water, the American States Waters, like the one Michael Burry invested in like 10 years ago. But it doesn't really do much to really directly benefit from the infrastructure spending on drinking water. So I just want people to kind of put that on the radar, and if somebody has any idea how this fucking shit works, this could be like potential play. That's probably or close to more likely to be recession resistant.
The play is drinking water basically, right?
Not so much the water aspect, but the actual delivery of the water, like the pipes.
So
out of outdated fixtures, they're like, I guess, not meeting the low enough lead levels.
I'm with you.
I got a question. I didn't know that the water was privatized in America. Is it?
Mostly, yes.
Jesus, I thought it was like more not nationalized, the drinking water.
I'm struggling with that. I think it's like I pay the city for my drinking water. I don't pay a private company.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I thought it was not national, like just a
No, like
community based.
a lot of like the smaller municipalities, they like there are companies called Veolia. That's like a pretty big water plant that is in like the Delaware, southern Pennsylvania region, probably New Jersey too. But like a lot of the municipal plants, they pretty much still farm out a lot of the services to private companies, because like the whole division of public works, they just do the maintenance. But those are just the services. I mean, but if you're talking about like the list water, that's a whole different ball game. So right now I'm just kind of looking at like who the fuck produces these plumbing fixtures that will be, replacing these really outdated stuff, because there's a lot of political momentum to get them done, like ASAP. Like if you like sit into some of these like parent teacher conference, I mean the PTO meetings, like the parent meetings in like the school board, everybody talking about like lead in the waters, and our kids are going regarded.
Yeah, I think the best thing to resolve these issues if like we had a more socialist economic structure than like a capitalist one.
I agree with that.
Okay, what's the play?
Okay, so first we hunt out Joe Biden and we fucking assassinate him.
And we
Next
are
step.
moving on right now.
Okay, what are we talking about?
Yo,
We
what
bombed
the
the White
shit
House.
did I walk back in on? I left the talk, came back a little
We
later.
were
Was
talking about
thinking
playing
about
Civilization, the video game on a computer, and now we're moving on to a new topic, which is going to be markets.
Yeah. So check out SPY. I'm thinking about buying puts again. I bought puts when it was at 20, sold when it was at 25
Sold.
cents a piece. Now it's back down again.
I thought you
And
went to the bar.
what was that?
I said, I thought you went to the bar. You made your money. You made us all look bad, and then you left. And we all thought that you made your money and left, and we're disappointed that you came back. We don't like to see you.
My wife threw the controller at me, and I played Skyrim for an hour, and now I'm back. And yeah, now she's playing Skyrim again. So now I'm just looking at like I don't know, maybe getting back in on these puts again.
Well, I'll
Zero
tell you
GPE.
that I have SPY put leaps and they're fucking pennies now. So yeah, it's probably a good time to buy.
I'll tell you guys this. We could hear Scald's wife in the background, which means that she can hear all of his plays, which means we're probably good on going with those plays.
So can I say something that is going to be super stupid, but I'm going to say it anyway?
Of course.
Because SPY is pumping again, we're getting another case of it looks like Carvana was everyone piled in on puts, and now SPY's pumping, which is pushing Carvana up at plus 12%. And Carvana calls might actually be a thing because it might do another run off the back of everyone bought puts, and that gives a lot of upward momentum when everyone does it and the market goes green. Just, I hate it, but it might be a thing.
Dude, Titty was calling it out yesterday, and I'm kicking myself I didn't join him. When it was $6.70 a share, he was like, I think the bottom's in. I'm going to buy calls like weeklies. He's up like crazy on them today. And I'm just like, damn it. He called it again.
Still holding Nintendo. It's actually up. It's like 10.55 last I looked, pushing 10.60. Hopefully the resistance is more like 10.40, 10.50 now, but I feel like we're probably going to drop back down below 10.50 again.
Nintendo still has this like my data here is a couple years old, but I remember a few years ago they had just like an insane amount of cash on hand. Like their reserves were just like pretty incredible for a company their size. Is that still true, or what's their position?
I'm a degenerate, sir. I'm playing strictly because there's a lot of good titles coming out between now and May of next year. The end of this is the Breath of the Wild 2 launch. So as far as like fundamentals on the company or anything, I don't fucking know. I don't know.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah, it's a DJ play all day. It's what we specialize in here, right? Like, so why the fuck aren't more of you people buying Nintendo right now?
But aren't they like giving refunds because the game is super buggy, the latest Pokemon game, which is like the biggest seller of the year, in theory?
The latest Pokemon game is shit. It's absolute shit.
Yeah, but they're giving refunds. I mean,
I don't
think
know.
it's a good
I don't
time.
know. I'm not focused on this Pokemon game. I was hoping that the Pokemon game would be a boon, but if it fucks up, it's only like one piece of a 8-part play for me. So I don't really care that much about the Pokemon game. If all the releases that they do between now and fucking May are shit, then yeah, I'm fucked. But Pokemon's not gonna ruin it for me.
I mean, Nintendo having bad results from a Pokemon game is not good for the company. That's a pretty flagship product for them, right?
Yeah, no, there's a Kirby game coming out. That's pretty big for Nintendo. There's another Mario game just came out, Mario versus Rabbids, which is going well. Splatoon 3, which is already priced in, was one of the biggest launches ever. Breath of the Wild 1 was like number 3, I think, on the biggest launch ever. So I fully expect Breath of the Wild 2, Kingdom of Tears, or whatever it is, to be a huge launch also. I really, personally, I think the Pokemon thing's just going to get lost in the noise, right? Like, they're going to do really well between now and I think it's Q1 of their 2024 fiscal year, which is in 2023. I think that's my aim, my end goal.
Look, I hear you that they have other stuff coming out, but I think bad news surrounding the #1 franchise, highest grossing franchise on the planet, probably you at least have to consider it when you're going long Nintendo.
I mean, I would agree with you. The stock is up, and we're living in that bullshit today. So I think we would be seeing it if it was a big deal. I think there's a lot of strength there because the OLED Switch is outselling all the other consoles. So, going into the holiday, I would think we're going to see more Switches sold than Xboxes and PlayStations and stuff. That Pokemon game is shit, but I'm still going to buy it for my 8-year-old. He doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah. Hey, yo, off topic, topic, but do you guys think there's gonna be like a huge economic crash soon, like really big, like
No,
worse than
I'll be
2008?
honest. Somebody else bumped you back up. I bumped you down because you're the guy that said something about killing the president, and that's kind of fucked up. Bro.
Whoa.
I'm warning you. Fucking opinion gave me power, bro. I'll kick you out. I don't give a shit.
Okay, so going back to Nintendo, I mean, they're having a lot of, at least here in Japan, they're having a lot of supply. They're doing like all the selling. They're doing it basically by lottery, except the flagship game. But all the other stuff, they want to sell, but they don't have the capacity to produce, so they're really restrained there.
So in Japan, another part of this play is the split that just happened was specifically so that Japanese citizens could buy into the stock. Prior to that split, it cost the same to go to college for a person in Japan than it did to buy into Nintendo.
You think they're buying stocks? They're suffering so much at the moment with the depreciation of the yen. They're having a lot of troubles. I don't think they're. I haven't heard anyone talking about stocks. I'm hearing about more about what they're having problems with, that they're actually just trying to talk about the stock market.
I don't know. Overall, I think it's a good play, and I'm still riding it. I haven't been talked out of it yet.
No, I'm not trying to talk to you against you. It's just I mean, there are visible headwinds, tailwinds. I always confuse the word. Doesn't matter. Especially, I would say here, they're trying to sell as much, but they don't have the capacity. I just still don't understand. They're so restrained, and after 2 years, I would have thought they would understand how much demand they have, but apparently they cannot supply what they need, which is crazy.
Actually, I wasn't aware of that, but I don't know how much that changes my end of this. Most of my goal here is the American side, right? Like, I mean, it's like I said, we're going into the holiday season. That Pokemon game is going to sell like fucking crazy, even if it is shit, right? And the whole thing, you can go on down the list. The Kirby game is probably going to pop off, and then getting out to the Nintendo game or the Zelda game, that should be. I mean, if it plays out the way that it did before in America, that's going to be one of the biggest releases of all time. And so I don't know. I feel like it's a good play. I feel like I'm probably going to see Nintendo hit like 12 or 13 a share.
Are you selling covered calls off of your
I'm
shares
holding
like premium or just holding?
Nope, I'm holding stock until the earnings report after the release of Breath of the Wild 2, which is sometime around May of 2023. I got about $2,000 in it right now.
But this is I would say they're all known variables, right? That like the entire schedule of releases, it's a known.
It is, but the volume of the release is the unknown, right? Like the Pokemon game is a good example of that. We expected a Pokemon game to come out and it be a Pokemon game, right? But it's getting shit on. Like one of the biggest things that I've seen about that is the professor isn't named after a tree. And it's not so much graphics. It's, you got what, 20 years of Pokemon games or whatever, and all the professors were oak and whatever, and now it's like Professor fucking Bob. Of course all the fans are upset about that. But again, that's not going to make a difference to my 8-year-old son who just wants to catch Pokemon. And so
No,
are
no,
we
no.
talking about
I agree. That's not a problem. I'm saying that we know that, for example, this game is going to be successful. Like, I don't think anyone does that. Like, the flagships are going to be selling. I'm thinking like, usually I know it's a cliche, but it's like it's already baked into the price, you know. So I think there's more chance that it makes it go down if there are disappointing results that actually making it go up, because what is the threshold that is gonna be like, oh, it's so successful that it blew away all our expectations when all the expectations are extremely high already.
Well, I have something real quick too. Sorry, that
No,
Super
go ahead,
Mario
buddy.
movie coming out. Super Mario movie coming out. Is that April? Nintendo's got to get some kickback from that, right?
I mean, it's their IP. They have to.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be huge. Movie looks cool. Like I saw the trailer. Seems all right.
I mean, it's too much IP, right? Like, I'm not trying to see Nintendo go to like $20 or $30 a share. I just want to, double my money and walk away. And I think I bought in before the split, so my cost basis there was like 50, but my cost basis came down to 1050, and I think I tripled my shares or something like that on that split. And so, it's all the same value and everything kind of lines up, but I'm hoping that based on all of this, the 1050 basis of that's my cost basis. I should at least see like 11 or 12 just based on the fact that one, the OLED Switch is outperforming everything else, and two, they've got all these releases between now and then, and also the holiday, right? So I don't know, but I feel like it's a pretty safe bet that we can see this thing go up to like $12 or $13 a share, and I make some money off it.
What I'm more surprised about Nintendo is how bad they are at delivering. Like, they have the demand, but they cannot deliver. That's actually what I'm very surprised. I think it's like the ones that I'm seeing here is kind of on the worst side of it. I know you're more focusing on the American side, which I fully understand. It's just kind of surprising when you're thinking that it's such a big company and they don't have their shit together.
I would say that adds to it. Honestly, just being a gamer, there's something about like that exclusivity. I think of, this thing is so popular that they haven't produced enough, and now I'm one of 100,000 people who have this thing, but there's 300,000 people who want it. There's value in that to me as a gamer, and so I agree with you. It should make it seem like it's a problem, because if we were talking about Tesla and them not being able to get the trucks out or whatever fast enough, then that's a big deal. But I think in our community, in the gaming community, most of us see that as a good thing when the company can't deliver, because now I have something that somebody else can't have.
Yeah.
When they do like an earnings call, do they even do an American earnings call?
Not sure.
I mean, I get what you're saying, and like, but markets are not purely rational. It's not an exact science. So even if they have a good earnings and all this stuff, I mean, to me it seems like this buying into Nintendo isn't like it's not like Tesla, it's not like these other companies out there where it's like present in people's minds because it's a Japanese company.
Well, anybody consider tariffs?
What is it?
What?
Tariff, like the import tax.
Oh, I thought you said terrorist. Yeah.
They're not gonna put an import tariff on Japan. It's not gonna happen.
Well, if it's like manufactured, say from China, or I don't know where Nintendos are manufactured at this point. I believe there are like certain like financial incentives or candy caps.
That's a good point. Like if they make the Switch in the Foxconn factory, I know the largest Foxconn factory in China right now they had a COVID shutdown and like 40% of the workforce left, like just fled because of how severe the lockdowns are.
You know, it's a good call. I think we need to know, though. I think it's speculation right now, right? Like, because we don't know where it is manufactured.
Let me check.
They're currently
I would
based in
wager.
China and Vietnam.
I'm just
Let
gonna
me go
say
find
it.
my Switch.
China is like, there's a few farmers that are herding the sheep.
How did I walk back on? Every time I pop back in
Skull.
here, it's magical.
Skull, help me out, man. Like, you're a Nintendo guy, right? You're in Nintendo, aren't you? Am I wrong?
Yeah, man, I followed you on that play.
They're talking me out of it here. Where you at?
I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I'm just trying to say that the markets aren't rational, and like I'm a big AMD guy, and I can't tell you how many good AMD earnings reports I've watched, and the stock go down 10% the day after, and it's not like a small cap, you know.
Well, the new Intel chip actually has surpassed AMD's Ryzen. That's one of the possible reasons.
So for consumer, that might be the case, but in data center, that where the real money is made, AMD is still wiping the floor with Intel.
It's the contract, right? If we're going to go down this road, let's talk about the contracting, because NVIDIA did what AMD did not, and they came out and made a name for themselves, and then the government and the data centers and all the things were like NVIDIA, because that's what all the gamers are using, that's what all the AI people are using. So AMD can catch up, yes, and I'm 100%. I hope that they do, because we need the competition. But I think it may be too late for AMD, just given how many connections NVIDIA has at this point.
So you're talking about two different things. So
you're talking about data centers. I'm talking about data centers. I'm saying that in a data center, it's going to be very difficult for AMD to get their hands in that data center, even though their price point is lower, because the name recognition of NVIDIA, especially now that the government has shut out NVIDIA from exporting stuff.
NVIDIA doesn't make CPUs.
I know, but they do make, they make they make chips. They make a lot of different things. It depends on what we're talking about in the data center.
They make GPUs. So what you're talking about only pertains to AI and machine learning compute. There's still tons and tons of CPU compute, and that total addressable market is only growing. And if you look at AMD's year over year, their guidance has remained firm in data center. They're continuing to take share from Intel. Intel is the king of the market currently, but is losing tons of market share, which is why they're laying off more employees than AMD even employs.
Hey, did AMD have a problem with their Ryzen chip? Was it, or correct me if I'm wrong? They had some issue or something, or no?
No,
not that I know of. But I mean, like, this entire conversation is foregoing the conversation that we're having on the side about Intel and the new CPU material and stuff. Like, I mean, if this is a long play, if we're talking about CPUs and Intel versus AMD, and we're talking about a long play here, if everything that this other guy is bringing us about this new material and all these government contracts and shit for processors, for semiconductors, if that is all true, I mean, I don't know, but if it is, then the CPU market is done. AMD might as well just shut down their entire company, because Intel's got it.
So Intel is trying to transition to being a fabricator because they are no longer successful in creating their own chipset.
Yes, but they are researching and developing a new material beyond silicone to develop semiconductors with. That's the new information that we've gotten about Intel in like the last couple of weeks.
Oh, buddy.
Which is why they're laying off half their workforce.
I mean, it would make sense if they're about to dump millions of dollars in research and development and something.
If they're cutting, they need the money. Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
you're talking about something that won't be realized for 5+ years.
I realize that, but I'm talking about something that's going to power computing for the next fucking century, bro. Yeah, I'm gonna pay off
It's the quantum computer. The quantum computer, yeah.
It's a big fucking deal. It's seriously, if they realize it, AMD is done. Their CPU department is done. I don't know if they'll realize it or not. They may not. But if
you realize that, like, functional quantum computing's been around for a minute now.
It's not quantum computing. These are normal processors. They're not quantum processors, man. They're CPUs that you'd see in a normal desktop.
So, all right. So, question is,
So what's the revolution there? What's the breakthrough? Tighter edge, tighter lip.
Opinion. Do you remember the material? It's arsenic, boronite, something like that. I don't know. Who's not here?
Cubic boron arsenide.
Yeah. Where you at? Who's the guy
No,
that
no.
knows
But so let me comment on this. Right, I've been in the industry for a couple of decades, and these kind of materials, they come and go. We've had graphene, we've had photonics, all that stuff. It's purely research. These guys probably manufactured a couple of transistors, a couple of basic gates like NANDs and inverters and stuff like that. But there are billions and billions of those on these modern silicon chips. If you go to the Wikipedia article for semiconductor materials, take a look at the list. It's massive. And in one of the columns, they describe the advantages and the disadvantages of the technology. And then you could see why silicon has a distinct advantage. And it's not because it's the best at everything. It's because it can operate at all these different parametrics, right? Temperature. You can get you could purify it a lot easier than other materials. Cubic boron arsenide, is there a possibility that's going to come on the market? Yes, but we're decades away, right? We're decades away. I think calling the death of AMD based on this, this very, very immature technology, is I think it's a little premature.
Let me ask you this: do you think that we're decades away from that, given everything that's going on in Taiwan and the semiconductor industry there? Like this is a national security play. I firmly believe that, and so that 2-year timeline is, I think it's going to change because we've got the government behind it.
Yeah, it's true. If it can crack the code, the bank code, if it can help us, it's cracking.
They cured COVID in like 20 days, bro. No.
So there are two things going on that I think is hedging the risk that we have
for a long time.
So if you go look at the list of fabs in the entire world, it's a huge list. And first you're like, oh, there's plenty of people manufacturing, right? But then you look at the leading edge nodes, you look at 5 nanometer, it's only 3 companies: Intel, Samsung, and TSMC. So Intel is offering foundry services. I think that's, personally, my opinion, I think that's where Intel is going to succeed in the future, is not what they're building with their processors, their GPUs, and all these other, like, whatever chips, the data center chips and everything. AMD's really, has been a huge challenge to them. And not only that, but don't forget, there's all these ARM-based data center chips that are starting to make inroads. Amazon has its Graviton chips that are making lots of inroads. Google has its own effort going on. A lot of the companies, if you read between the lines, are sampling those platforms, right? Because ARM provides supplier diversity, because nobody wants to be locked to Intel and pay their premium pricing, right? So AMD is definitely clearing the path for a lot of other competitors. But looping back to the original semiconductor thing, so Intel offering foundry services means that Intel is going to allow people that are fabless, like Qualcomm and all those other guys, and NVIDIA and AMD are now fabless. It's going to allow them to start using domestic fabrication houses, right? TSMC is also heavily investing, building. We've heard folks talk about how they're building plants right up the street from them, what they've heard in Ohio, Arizona, et cetera. So that's how we're going to get our national security in check, is those fabrication houses. The processor technology, nobody's been able to displace the engineering in the United States. It's untouchable. China has tried. Russia has tried for decades, right? This isn't a new story. This has been going on for decades. And nobody can take that dominance. And that's anything from microcontrollers, little things that go into ECUs, all the way out to data center processors, all the way out to space, right? You look at what's in the Mars rover and the quadcopter, it's a Qualcomm chip and an ancient IBM chip that's in those, right? It is our dominant market. So from a national security standpoint, we control what goes out of the US. The manufacturing, it's fundamentally impossible to reverse engineer now. You're talking about, somebody trying to backside grind a piece of silicon, this thin piece of glass that's on this when they manufacture these chips, and actually be able to go down and demystify what's going on there. And, nowadays an integrated circuit that they build like this for a complex, let's say, processor or GPU, there's so many layers of different materials, you can't possibly go and have. precise enough equipment to do that. And guess who has the precise enough equipment to go debug those when they fail? It's the people that do the fabs and the people in the United States, right?
So ASML, aren't they dependent upon basically ASML being, the main focal point? That they're
I don't think ASML is the only game in town. There are a whole bunch of other companies that there's a variety of
they just have the
vendors.
latest, baddest technology or something.
But it's just like in a car factory. If you think about it, you're getting suppliers providing, the people providing the electronics are not the same people providing the hinges for the doors, like, whatever. I'm just making that up because I'm not in the car industry. It's the same thing when you're manufacturing, when you're building out a fab, is you're getting suppliers from all different things. If you look at, somebody has to provide the optics for the photolithography. If you look at it, it's going to be the big players when it comes to making lenses, right? Canon, Nikon, Leica. They probably make more money on creating those things every few years, just a handful of them, than they do on all the camera lenses they ever made. Now, that's an exaggeration, of course, but those things are super expensive. So there are all these different suppliers. It's not just going to be ASML, right? There's going to be a lot of other companies.
They do the etching and stuff like that.
Right.
I thought they were like
Yeah.
the market leader, and they've got the smallest etching lines. And
I think that he is right about that with the EUV lithography. ASML is pretty much a monopoly right now.
So the question that I have is the new.
I lost money on them. I did my homework after the fact. I was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have not shorted them because of their position and where they're at, as far as being, kind of everything starts, so to speak, with them, because the smaller they make their edges, the more I can chip on the lines and stuff. So
You're like my favorite dude.
Mine too, by the way. I just wanted to say,
it's crazy.
I look forward
You guys
to
are all my favorite.
Yeah, I look forward to my Alex Jones Jr. Fix, and I've missed you honestly for the last week or so. Every time I go onto a talk and I don't hear your voice, I get a little disappointed for the rest of the day.
Oh, well, because man, I get confused on here. I can't tell if I'm pretty much hated, or because I don't ever look at the comments, and I don't know if I'm supposed to look at the comments or whatever. So I get lost. I don't, I'll see something. I'm like, is that a smart ass comment to me? Am I supposed to respond to that? Am I supposed to blow that off? Or so I get confused still.
If you get up here and talk at all, you just have to ignore. I don't even know that there are fucking comments. I'm sure there's people that are talking all kinds of shit about me and my boy.
Okay, cool. So then I don't feel bad. All right, cool. Then I won't look at him then. All right. If
Hey,
somebody needs to tell me something, they would tell me something, I guess.
And I just wanted to close out my comments, and thanks for everybody being so patient to listen to my rant there. So to kind of loop back to the beginning, I would ignore anything like cubic boron arsenide. It's all these researchers, they're trying to get research grants. And I'm a little bit of a pessimist when it comes to that, because I have not seen a single non-silicon technology come out. So if you go back and read that Wikipedia page I was talking about semiconductor technologies, you'll see like we used to have fabs that did some kind of gallium process before and all that stuff, specialized things. There's the GAN the technology that's used for high efficiency power conversion. So they use that in a lot of like USB PD chargers and all that stuff, right? That doesn't apply to semiconductors as we know them, like for compute, like your phones and your computers and data center chips, right? That doesn't matter for those. So what I would say is what I've seen in the industry is the way you make money is how many good squares you get off a wafer, right? The yield. It's very, very expensive just for that one round disc. A single raw wafer is astonishingly expensive because you have to purify that silicon. Yeah, the crystals have to be aligned just right.
I think we found our first cage match opinion. I think we need the guy with the boron stuff to come and talk to Master Hankshake here. I want to hear it.
I'd be interested to see what his background is. Like, I've literally been in the industry. I've worked on both the processors that are on Mars right now came from projects I've worked on. So
as excited, no, seriously. As excited as you are about like talking me out of this, he's excited about talking me into this. And so I really want to hear you guys go back and forth, because I agree. I want to know what his background is. I want to know what your background is. And this to me, honestly, if this thing plays out, if he's right, not to say that you're wrong, but if he's right, this is going to be the biggest fucking play
probably of our lifetime.
Sure, because the main thing that the government wants to keep control of is the crypto code, the banking code that you can't hack. That took Google or it took the quantum computer 24 hours or an hour?
Yeah, it's not long at all.
And I'll say this much is that all these technologies, when they do more, everybody stays in lockstep. So if you look at the mid 2000s, I think there was a copper-based technology. I think it was copper insulators that they introduced into silicon manufacturing. Everybody had those. Intel, IBM at the time, because they actually owned their fabs at the time, and TSMC, they did the same thing. You look at everybody's technology nodes, right? When we first saw 14 nanometer, everybody was on 14 nanometer, right? TSMC, Samsung, and Intel as well, right?
I don't disagree with you at all. I think the nature of the world today is very hostile, and I think that the United States government wants to keep as much close to their hip as possible. I think
what the government's doing is not in line with what you see out of research, because that stuff never gets published.
That's what I'm saying, is that if this was a move, right? If this is a national security move to move away from silicone, and these new constructions that they're doing have some fabrication for these new chips or something like that, we would never know. Because if I was the government today, I would approach this like I approach GPS, right? Like, I've made this thing and holy shit, it's really cool, but maybe I don't want to give it to the whole world. And they ended up doing it, but they thought about it first. And that was the first time that we had made technology, like the internet came out. We handed it to everybody. GPS was like, wait a minute, this is a big fucking national security thing. Should we hand this to everybody? And we ended up doing it. But I think the processors are probably going to play out the same way.
So, and the other thing is, whenever the government uses any of this processor technology, they never use the latest and greatest. They always use something that's the most stable and understood. And then they make it as redundant as they can. And then they go to the technology that provides the most radiation shielding they can get. So all that stuff is pretty well known. So that's the one thing is, there's one thing to say national security when it comes to GPS satellites or missile tracking systems and all that stuff, right?
Millstar.
Oh, what's that?
Sorry, that's the only one that in my opinion, that we don't want anybody to see or know about is the Millstar.
Yeah, and trust me, there's a lot of stuff we know about. I worked on a couple of confidential projects where they shipped me off site because I couldn't take calls in the building I was in. And they don't even tell the engineers what they're working on. I didn't find out what I was working on until 2 years later, when I got a project manager that I work with sent me a press release and said, "Congratulations, you were a part of this."
Cool.
So it's like you don't even know you're working on it. So whenever the government does use any kind of commercial technology, nobody knows about it, right?
Knows the whole full picture.
What do you do? I don't think I'd captured that.
I have been working in custom processor development, so like front end, back end, and I've worked basically from the whole like design side to releasing it to manufacturing, to bringing up the chips when they first come back from manufacturing, all the way out to the tail end of, when customers have had a chip for a couple of years and something fails, I go in and help debug the hardware. So I'm kind of a generalist, kind of across the field. Yeah, and I've been wanting to kind of talk, but I've always been at work. I took the day off today to, put up holiday decorations. I was on the top of a 20-foot ladder when I decided to climb down and unmute. So
I like it. I'm happy that you did. I don't know that we have. I mean, other than the other guy that's trying to sell us on the cubicle prawn stuff, I don't know that we have anybody that knows specifically anything about.
And I'm sorry. I start fuming a little bit when he's kind of like yelling like this is the next big thing. I'm like,
so
geez, this is like the Ronco guy, like Ron Popeil, like selling you the whatever that rotisserie thing was.
So that's the next thing. You're telling me that you've listened. Have you heard his pitch specifically?
I have, and I've asked, if you look at some of the comments I've made to his comments, I've asked like, hey, what is the biggest chip that you're aware of that they've manufactured? If you read some of the articles, there's an IEEE article, which is a very reliable source because they kind of own all the engineering standards, especially in computer engineering.
Yep, I can get behind that.
Yeah. And so if you article, they basically say like the same problem as with silicon is getting the purity to a point where you can actually allow for that electron mobility advantage that you're talking about, right? And electron mobility isn't the end all, which he kind of keeps saying, right? It's all about electron mobility. It's not, because here's the thing: when we talk about silicon technology, and you talk about going from 5 nanometer to 3 nanometer, that dimension is the minimum width polysilicon you can manufacture. The metal doesn't scale. That's the thing. When you shrink these technologies, your metal can only carry so many electrons, right? So you can't actually make the metal much thinner than you've had in past technologies. You can optimize it a little bit. You can add extra layers to be able to run metal wires, more metal wires and stuff like that. And so the way silicon manufacturing works is the layers, if you look at metals, they're perpendicular to each other, each layer that's manufactured, to keep things like crosstalk and everything from not happening. A lot of folks that are, electricians and stuff probably deal with the same stuff. So that's the thing. So when he talks about electron mobility and the silicon, that's actually not that much of an issue. So the biggest advantage silicon has is reliability and predictability, right? When we manufacture it, we know statistically the two ends of the process and then the nominal in the middle. And we know how to treat every single part. And this is how Intel does, and AMD does the things where they, have the different SKUs, right? So they'll sort based on power, they'll sort based on frequencies you can reach, and all that stuff is simulated with stuff that literally these foundries, these fabs like TSMC, Samsung, Intel, they would give you a toolkit to work with if you're a fabless company. And you can simulate all that stuff. You can model all that stuff. You can do statistical things. And there are all these other companies that provide the tooling for this that, they're not household names by any means, but they're massive companies in the hardware engineering world. And that's what really makes, that's where the rubber meets the road, right? All these innovations that happen when NVIDIA, when AMD, Intel, Qualcomm, and all Apple, especially Apple, when they build these complex chips, all this technology, the tooling and everything gets enhanced because the design of those chips is ahead of the tooling. So we're basically building the tooling under our feet as we're designing these complex chips. But that tooling benefits the rest of the industry. So then you start getting better chips for things like your watches, right? Your smartwatches and stuff like that. All that trickles down. So it's kind of like a Halo car, kind of, right? All the technology from the Halo cars kind of trickles down. Disc brakes came from, the Jaguar E-Type having disc brakes, and that trickled down to common day cars. It's similar how that happens in the silicon world too, right? Processor technology pushes the leading edge nodes. So right now, 5 nanometer. And eventually, in 5 years, all the processors that they're manufacturing for your smartwatches and just the IoT type devices, they'll be on 5 nanometer, while the bleeding edge nodes will be down to 1 nanometer or 2, whatever they are, right? If you go look at the latest processors that, let's say, Qualcomm has put out for smartwatches, they're not using 5 nanometer. I believe they're maybe 14 nanometer. So they're using a 7-year-old technology currently, right? So, and it's like I mentioned a few minutes ago, the key there is they use those older technologies because they're well understood, well known, and they know how many good squares they're going to get out of a wafer, which dictates your profit margin.
So it doesn't sound like it would be much of a cage match with all the information you just gave us, but I would love to hear the debate anyway.
Yeah,
So
I do
will
have a
say-
question. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna quickly say the Intel guy's name is Slut Spoiler. He's a good guy, but he's no, I'm not like trying to make a joke or nothing. Just he's a good guy and he's a smart guy. He's done a lot of research into Intel, but I'm 99% certain he's not in the industry.
Yeah,
He's just someone he's done a lot of research. He's done stuff into the stuff, but he's not like Master Hank, my man. Like it's clear, like you're in the industry, you're on the ground doing this. He's just reading through the reports he can get his hands on.
Yeah, and to be fair, my interactions with him have been very pleasant. Like nothing to say like he's kind of like there's no reason for a cage match, basically, right? So I think it's more of like, okay, let's reset expectations and figure out, if we do want a faction of us that want to understand semiconductors better and what matters when we see a press release. I think it's good to bring some experience and reality, and I hope there are other folks on these calls and on the forum, on the subreddit, that can also kind of set me straight, right? I understand my piece of the pie, but like the whole ASML thing, I don't pay attention to manufacturing because I work for a fabless semiconductor company, right?
So
Do you happen? No, go ahead, Data. It's cool.
if you were, given your, I would say in-depth knowledge, where I feel like I have like a 20,000 feet knowledge of the industry, if you were given, 100K to invest today, split it up all in one basket, whatever, where would you put your money in terms of semiconductors?
I like it.
That's a good question, and I haven't put my own money in semiconductors, but I would definitely diversify. And I would look. So there's multiple plays you could have, I think. So personally, what I try to look at, I mean, I am heavily invested in the kind of the tech industry, especially the hardware side, simply because I think I just have a little more comfort in that space. I'm not going to say that comfort has led to anything close to massive profits or massive gains. So, I'll say what the other folks say on here. This is not financial advice. I do honestly like what Apple does. They're an engineering juggernaut. I think their engineering culture isn't great, but I think the products they put out speak for themselves. So that would always be my first choice, and that's a personal investment I've made since 2003, I think.
It's always interesting to me when I meet another engineer who is for Apple, since I'm an engineer and I'm so against Apple, and we're saying fundamentally the same thing except the opposite, right? Like, you like their engineering so much, I hate their engineering so much. It's always interesting to me.
So it's not that their engineering is necessarily better. They just took ownership of more of the entire hardware and software stack before anybody else even thought of it. So not only do they create their own processors, right? They customize the architecture to their own liking with somewhat of ARM's permission, but they're like, we have our own tool set, we have our own compilers, we have our own operating system. Nobody else
that's
has
why
that,
that's why
right?
I don't like them.
Exactly. What they do with the RISC processor?
I had a 4-wheeler when I was about 17 or so, and the front, the carburetor fell off that thing, and it cost me $600 to get it just strapped back onto the 4-wheeler because the screws were proprietary for Kawasaki, and they were like $200 a piece. That's when you talk about Apple to me. That's what I hear.
I got you. Yep.
So they do, and I will say this much: I don't personally, I've never had an iPhone, but that doesn't mean that I haven't purchased iPhones for other people in my family. But I do think that whenever I pick up an iPhone, you could definitely see the thought and clarity that they have in their hardware, software, and physical design processes. That's one of the few companies that it's obvious that they care about not just one, like they don't claim to have the fastest processor or the longest battery life or the best quality screen or the highest density, but you know what? It works very well together. And that's the secret sauce that makes them tick faster than anybody else in the industry. And now they brought that expertise over to, they basically built out the ARM processors and put them in their MacBook Airs, MacBook Pros, and all. So they're basically migrating away from Intel. And if you think about the genius of that company, they started out on Motorola's 68,000 series, pivoted to PowerPC, pivoted to Intel, and now pivoting from Intel to ARM. I mean, no other company has made those leaps in their history, right? There is a lot of great engineering and a lot of great engineers you'll never hear about in that company. And not to say there aren't great engineers at other companies that are trying to do something amazing, right? But they just know how to put it all together really well so that every single piece of the solution just works, right? And honestly, it works. It's gotten so complex, it's hard to make it work all the time. And we have a car whose backup camera can't work for shit. And it's not a difficult thing to do. But, I think we've gotten to the point where we've tipped onto this complexity and I think the new breakthrough is something that happens that takes this complexity, wraps it up, and makes it more error-proof, right?
That was the Steve Jobs mentality. He was able to take all that, like, look, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take it all, melt it down, and now I want this. Watch.
Hold up. Flood spoiler. Flood spoiler. I'm happy to see you, sir. The conversation needs to be had.
Yes. I've been listening. Okay, but first, I'm excited about the thermal capacitance of this thing and how easy it cools. The electron mobility's really neat. It's a big boost, but that's what I was excited about. No, I don't work in the industry or anything like that, but I've been putting pieces together for all these new sites being built in America, moving away from China's arguments with Taiwan and all that stuff. All that stuff was really good. I don't really have any disagreement. I just feel like but I gotta say I haven't been pumping anything or pushing anything. I've just been really excited about the speculation, and I've been looking into all the funding that the government wants to give American companies and how much of that billions and billions of dollars is going to go to research and development specifically for American domestic chip production.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. That's long overdue. I started in the industry quite a while ago, and it was shocking to me that there was no government subsidization for something that's so expensive to build. Put it this way: IBM's 2006, the last fab they built, was their first 300 millimeter fab. It cost them $5 billion in 2006, right? So if you factor that into today's money, it was damn expensive, and the company took the risk of it. And of course, they divested all their. So we had domestic manufacturing, right? Not only Intel, we had IBM, we had AMD, right? And then you have smaller players like TI, Analog Devices, all that stuff. They have some analog-based fabs, but that was basically it. And now stuff got spun off to like a conglomerate out of the Middle East that owns Global Foundries. I think that's been passed around a few times. I think that's ex-AMD and maybe now ex-IBM as well. But it got too expensive, and the government never stepped in. And yeah, I think it has created a national security gap, as people have mentioned on here.
We should also.
So we got. Go ahead. Sorry.
I say I want to clarify. Intel is not the only benefactor from that government money. So I know
they're not.
So I think part of this conversation should be like it's not just Intel that's going to get R&D money, that's going to get money to help put up fabrication facilities.
I've mentioned Qualcomm, I've mentioned TSM, I've mentioned NXPI, I've mentioned Intel. I'm not. Everybody thinks like there's an argument here or some kind of cage match, but it's really just me pulling together information, seeing that we're clamping down with this chip embargo. We are acting in America's bottom line disinterest by moving things to domestic shores. So it's not in the interest of money. So there are some big things happening right now, and this cubic boron arsenide thing. I know we make gallium chips, and there's a couple of other things or whatever, but this one, they're saying it's the best semiconductor ever. And I know that's a bunch of hype and fluff, but it really does look pretty good to me. And it seems like the timing is perfect.
Let me ask you this: what does NVIDIA stand to gain from a new material? Like
everybody stands to gain from a new material, because everybody that's fabless, that would be Qualcomm, NVIDIA, AMD, and just a litany of other manufacturers. Basically, everybody other than Intel, if you're talking about leading edge compute GPU stuff, everybody stands to benefit, because TSMC and Samsung and Intel will all be able to adopt that technology. Now there may be some arbitrage in a way, because one may be a year or two ahead, but see what happened to Intel. They were 3-4 years ahead in the technology, and now they're 3-4 years behind, right? So it cuts both ways, right?
But that money, that CHIPS Act money, $200 and something billion, $57 billion, which is going to go to the semiconductors. That can speed up a company that is got the architecture, they've got the tooling. That could just really help them out with making new foundries from scratch, having purity that they need for these new semiconductors.
So okay, here's the fundamental problem, right? When we had the dot-com bust, not only did people flee from investing in software companies, they also fled from investing in hardware companies, and that didn't recover for almost 15 years. So we have a massive shortage of people that could do hardware design in the US. The amount of H-1Bs that we're forced to have, an amount of remote sites we're forced to open, because we can't design this technology domestically wholly with people that are from the United States. It's astonishing. So even all that money is not going to change that. It's going to give companies a little more latitude to take a little more risk. That's not going to yield necessarily successful results. We've seen AMD, with their Athlon series and everything, start to take over Intel and then just start falling behind again, right? Opteron did great for the first generation.
Okay, go ahead, Walt.
Let me be like the DGen for a minute and say I'm the Department of Defense, right? And I realize that there's a new material that has potential to be semiconductor, whatever. It's this new thing. Nobody else has it. I realize that AI is starting to take over everything. Machine learning. We're talking about like in the next decade, we're probably going to see wars fought with this shit, right? So if I'm the Department of Defense, I'm going to shut down NVIDIA because NVIDIA is the leading fucking chip maker, whatever, for the AI stuff. I'm going to think about this new material not in terms of like, can I make processors out of it, but can I have my processing people do the research and then hand this to NVIDIA, who I basically own, so that now my military machines, which is the future, are more powerful, right? Are faster, or more thermally etc.
So the government actually doesn't have any engineers of that caliber. That's unfortunate.
You really think that the Department of Defense is not that deep, bro? They were trying to control people's minds and shit.
Yeah. So to your point,
Boston Dynamics.
Export restrictions have always been in place for every single chip I've worked on. There's basically when you fill out a form to even manufacture it or make something a product, every company has a thing that basically the government dictates. If it exceeds a certain amount of performance, it's restricted for export. And every single chip I've worked on, I believe, has been restricted for export to certain regions of the world, right? So that's kind of built into the process right now.
So then why would they put on another layer of embargo? And then if you can answer this real quick. You said that American designing and engineering was like top notch, no one could beat it or anything like that. So if all the designing is done, why wouldn't we want to just take what we've got and just put it on a better material? Like, wouldn't that be the goal here?
We are every single time we have a new silicon technology, it doesn't look anything like the one before. It's just that the engineering and science that goes into it is something that's well above my pay grade and well outside my expertise. But I do know that there are significant advances in silicon technology that are constantly being made. There are new materials. So silicon is not a monolithic technology, right? There's lots of different metals that are used in the processing, lots of different chemicals used to etch.
Yes. And another thing I want to say though, that there's some things I took it like I never said that silicon was going to go away. I never said that.
Oh yeah, I don't believe that at all.
And it's going to be tough to displace just because the economies of scale work so well with it. It's kind of like you look at how long it took car manufacturers to start manufacturing any kind of parts for cars with aluminum, right? It took decades. And that's a material that's just a structural piece that you stamp and weld or epoxy or something like that. It's not a material that actually has, you have to manage electron flows and temperatures. I mean, even in silicon, when we went to a new technology about 10 plus years ago, we have to certify most chips. You have to specify a temperature range. So even the chips in your phone are rated for negative 25 degrees C up to usually 125 degrees C. So there's a guaranteed performance of some level. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to run at max frequency at both those ranges. But what we found out is with, for example, with even silicon technology, when we got below 0 degrees C for this particular technology, we had a funky inversion in the characteristics of silicon. So we're still discovering more things in silicon that we don't know. We're not at the end, far from it. And Moore's law has always been BS. Inside the industry, we never talk about it. It's a talking point for media outlets. It was one guy with this damn ego that he put on the table. Because he was one of the original Intel guys, I guess he's allowed to have that ego. But I have disliked that ever since I started in the industry. And, Moore's law is not a good measurement of semiconductor technology progress.
So what do you think of the semiconductor like engineers. They put out this statement. It was a pretty long document, and it was for the White House and the new direction of semiconductors and where they should go. And in it, it says that they have reached the limit of putting transistors smaller and smaller on a chip of silicon material.
You know, articles like that go back over 20 years now. If there seriously was a risk in silicon technology and word, is it getting harder? Yes, it's getting harder.
Well, I don't think they mean. I just think they mean for
molecular level. Each
for making the. I think they meant for making cutting. Well, the whole goal of this CHIPS Act, right? From reading it, is to make leading edge chips. Leading edge, and I think the reason why is for like AI. They're going to sell it to China for their surveillance systems.
So I'll say this much: so the industry does adapt. I think back to the Pentium 4 days with Intel, where they were literally, these chips would have the thermal density of the sun, right? You'd have Pentium 4 chips hitting over 3 gigahertz at the time that were pulling 200 watts, right? And then Intel realized that oh wait, that's not going to work anymore. So then they moved to the core architecture, and that's where they went to an architecture that an internal Intel team was working on that had enhanced the Pentium Pro architecture, which went into, I believe, Pentium 2 and part of Pentium 3. And they basically said, instead of going faster, why don't we go wider, right?
Yeah,
and that's where you start getting the Core 2 Duo and all that stuff. So you look at all this. I mean, your phone has at least 4 processors in it, and that's if you have a janky phone from 9 years ago. Modern phones all have 8 cores in them, right? 8 super high performance processors working in them. So don't forget, it's not the designers on the front end are adapting to the technology limitations on the back end. So, the focus on power is there. Like, we have these super amazing, power enveloping technologies that nobody talks about and nobody's going to patent because nobody wants them to get out, right? So nobody wants to even give a hint. So don't forget, companies like Intel, AMD, NVIDIA, all that, they're sitting on a pile of technology that is so proprietary, they're really not even going to patent it. Their patent law. So every time we want to write up a patent, it goes through our patent IP folks. And if they say it's like, well, you know what? If we tell people that we're even doing this and it comes out even in the next 2 years, it's revealing too much. So it's the unpatentable proprietary stuff that really drives all the competition, right?
Yeah, and I'm looking at that and I'm seeing this breakthrough, and I'm thinking, and now they're moving these things domestically, and they're trying to get these Taiwan semiconductor engineers to come over to Texas and live there, from an article I read. And it just seems like it's not a coincidence that Taiwan is so close to China. There's been a bunch of tension there, and I know that obviously China just can't go in there and invade because these sites, these foundries are really, really sensitive to debris, and war would cause a bunch and all that stuff. But I'm just seeing the ducks lining up, and I'm thinking that there is something big enough of a reason to start hoarding our technology and our processes and the patents that I guess aren't getting written, like you said. I just see big moves.
Hoarding over
pause for a second. Speaking of big moves, check out
I'm
Spy.
struggling to.
Check out Spy, folks.
Scald, always your spot. How much money have you made today, Scald?
A little bit. More than yeah. It's
How many
it's going well.
are you up exactly right now?
I was up 150% on my total position in Spy from my 2 trades.
You can't say that. You can't say percentage. That's not how they do it.
Bravo, sir. Bravo.
Number, man. Give it the fucking number.
Hey, on a more serious note, and obviously this would be with opinions approval.
Money is serious.
Exactly. With opinions approval, of course, but I don't know about the rest of you. I feel like if Mr. Master Hank would be okay with it and Opinion would be okay with it, I'd be very interested in my man doing a talk on semiconductors, especially with some of the smarter people here being able to come in and ask some stuff, because you definitely know the sector, my dude. And I would love, it's an interesting sector. I think a lot of the sub likes, and I know I would appreciate getting to hear some of that from you.
I'm really struggling to hold on to this question, man. So please, you mentioned the processors being wider than they are faster, where we're dealing with more cores and more threads and stuff like that. If I recall correctly, and this is not my industry at all, but I remember reading an article or something about the engineer that came up with the idea of stacking cores had said that he regretted doing that because he realizes today that there's a lot of limitations to that. And so, me as an engineer myself, I question whether or not, if we're talking about the government engineering or Intel engineering or stuff like that, if this is something that the person that came up with that has said, then these other engineers also have to realize that that's also a limitation. And so then I start to ask questions about cubic boron or whatever the hell. And, what does that do for us in terms of a single core? Because we got away from a single core a long time ago due to the material limitations.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. The thing is that we may see a hybrid attempt, and I would think the only company that's going to take a risk at something like this would be a hardware startup. But hardware startups are ridiculously expensive. Like, there's almost no VC on the planet that can stomach funding a hardware startup. Take a look at Ampere. I know this is not a market cap thing. This is just an example of a company that's trying to get off the ground, and they're doing ARM-based server products. They've made some pretty big splashes in the news. But take a look at that as an example of how difficult it is to get funding and what kind of pedigree somebody needs to have to get off the ground.
Well, instead of a hardware startup, what about a company that is established getting billions in grants from the government for research and development?
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, how does the technology change when, my DGen play for this, right, is in 20 years, the robots are going to be fighting each other. So what material is that robot going to be using? What brand names are going to be on that robot?
Boston Dynamics.
Based on the play today, yeah, I can see some Boston Dynamics, but I'm also seeing an NVIDIA sticker on that, and I don't think I'm seeing an Intel sticker on it. I don't know, but I don't think I am.
It might be powered by NVIDIA. Boston Dynamics powered by NVIDIA. Computed by Intel. I don't know.
I don't think it's going to be NVIDIA.
Why do you think we're going to have hot conflict in any kind of near future?
I mean, okay, so my position has always been that science fiction is the goal, right? Like, we feed this stuff. So Star Wars and all this stuff, we watch these things because we want that life in some capacity. We know we're capable of it. So
use the Force. That's right.
I'm not saying use the Force. I'm saying, like, within the constraints of, like, I mean, it doesn't exist, right? But within the constraints of what a human can do, what does the future look like? And I don't think that it's going to be we're fighting. I mean, maybe we're having fist fights and shit in bars and stuff, but when we're talking about war, we're already moving to a space where human life is the thing that we're trying to reduce, the use of. And ultimately, in 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, whatever, it's just going to be no human life. It's going to be who has the best robot.
I gotta get back to work, but so I gotta ask one more question. I'm really interested in an AMA talk, like Brad said, because these hardware stocks have gotten the shit kicked out of them, and it would be awesome to get in on the bottom.
Start buying.
So I'll say one thing. I'm happy to be part of a forum that does it, but I don't want my word being the only word. I'm not. I've been in the industry. I've been fortunate to have worked on a variety of products across the gamut of processors, at least. But I would put out an invitation for any other folks that have been in the industry, either just into it or been there for a while.
One more question. How easy would it be to retrofit a silicon wafer lab to make cubic boron arsenide?
Honestly, we don't know enough about what they have to do to even etch a single transistor. If the chemicals and everything and the lithography is different, you just throw away the entire thing.
Yeah.
We just don't have enough information, but I would err towards saying you have to start from scratch.
Awesome. That is exactly what I wanted to hear.
But make sure that I'm not the only one you're hearing it from. Again, I would invite other folks to this. So once we build a consortium of people, I think then it makes sense to have somebody calling me out, because I don't want to be the only voice in the room.
Well, what we could do is just have a focus talk. So everyone goes back, does some research, and then we come back and just talk about specifically this.
Yeah, I like it. Opinion.
Would you like to do that?
I don't come here to be told I'm smart. I come here to be told I'm stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you should really write up a lengthy DD on this, because I feel like you would get absolutely destroyed in the comments.
Oh, you're talking to me?
I think he's talking to Slut Spoiler.
Slut Spoiler.
Oh, no, but there's no reason to destroy him, right?
I think you are 100% using confirmation bias, like in this notion. Like, we've already established that because of the conflicts between China and Taiwan, there's a national security reason to move. And this has been something that's been talked about for quite some time now. It's not new. It's just finally there's been, an absence of gridlock in the government, so that they've put forth this funding, and then you're using a coincidence to drive this theory that everything's going to switch to
the way the budget's broken down is they have money for building new foundries, but they also have money allocated, and the lion's share of that money is allocated to research and development. Okay, I gotta go. Sorry.
I think the key thing there is to look for if this technology does have legs, and I don't think you're going to miss the ground floor on this when it comes to an investing opportunity, because look for something coming out of the research divisions of any of these big semiconductor companies. Because if they're dabbling with it, their research teams, they are basically getting paid to publish papers, to show up at conferences. So that to me is the real canary in the coal mine for this technology, right? Is if it's going to be, canary's going to die. Hopefully this technology is not going to die. We're always looking. I mean, we want better technology. We don't want to stay on silicon. We didn't think we'd be on silicon right now, honestly, from an engineering standpoint. We just want to be on what we can engineer our designs onto. And if there's any kind of restrictions, an interesting read for folks is there's this company in the mid 90s that basically decided to take a PowerPC processor that IBM and Motorola and Apple had put together. I forget if it was the 604, 604E. The company was called Exponential Technologies. It was a startup. And what they did was they took the regular semiconductor technology, and the most popular one is called CMOS, CMOS. And so they used a slightly different version of it that used bipolar junction transistors, and it's called BiCMOS. And it blew everything out of the water when it came to frequency. Everybody else was running at like 200, 233 megahertz. They came out at over 500 megahertz. It failed within a year. So that's the last example I know of somebody coming out with they kind of back-end technology that tried it. And it's because it's expensive to go solo, right? In the end, these things are so darn expensive. If you don't have a lot of other companies feeding into this, the whole industry following each other, you're not going to get the economies of scale worked out to be able to manufacture millions of these chips. And you have to manufacture millions of them to be profitable.
Hey, sorry.
Right.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go.
Okay, so you guys are talking about a bunch of different companies, and I've lost a ton of money. So I'm trying to make a little bit of a safer play here. I mean, wouldn't it make sense to just buy a semiconductor ETF and hold out? Would that not give you the best chance if any of these companies strike something new to make money? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, somebody mentioned
money.
Yeah, somebody mentioned SOXL today. I know that's a triple leverage semiconductor thing. So I don't know if there's just if anybody knows a non-leveraged one, right? That might be a little safer. SOX, yeah. Because I was going to actually go look at that after you mentioned SOXL. I should probably, put my money where my mouth is and actually put money into SOX.
If you got long term.
Well, that's what I'm aiming at is long term, because I'm getting fucking fried, man, on individuals. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
None of this is financial advice.
Yeah. Well, of course, but that's why I'm trying to play the safe play, right? I mean, ETF, you're not gonna make 100%, but yeah, dude, I'm not putting money into individual shit anymore, so I can get burned in the background. I'm just learned too many lessons here.
Yeah, just remember the one thing I've learned from every process. We had a world beating. We had something that could have unseated a giant, a piece of technology, till a whole bunch of us got chopped. And I'll say one thing is, just because somebody has the best innovation doesn't mean they're actually going to be able to show a profit. Because in the end, don't forget, the people that are running the companies aren't the same as the engineers actually getting the work done. You can have someone like a Steve.
Think we lost you.
Damn. That was a lot of good information he was saying. That was
Benson,
phenomenal.
the CEO of NVIDIA, maybe the closest one we have.
Oh, you cut out for about 10 seconds there, bud.
You did. I think it's a good idea that we look at focused talk on something. It doesn't necessarily have to be this. I think we were talking about uranium today, opinion, stuff like that. We lost Slut Spoiler, so I think at this point we can move on or wrap it up.
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm heading out. Everybody who's going to be enjoying Thanksgiving tomorrow, enjoy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you guys Friday. So have a good rest of your day.
We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. We've got to talk. We rescheduled it with Luce to noon for Thanksgiving. We're all going to be talking about what we're so thankful for or less thankful for in our gains and losses.
Like a blast.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll see you then. But yeah, thanks for sticking around for 4 hours.
It's been a lot. I probably should have done some work or something. So if you guys all lost your jobs with me, then love you guys.
All right. Well, we'll see you all tomorrow. Cheers, guys.
Opinion, we not thrown down then?
Oh, wait. No, that's right. We're throwing down at 5 p.m. I'm sorry. Yeah, 5 p.m.
Because I'm telling you right now, I got my good boxing gloves on. I got the Rocky music in the background.
All right. I'm ready to get punched. Let's talk uranium at 5 p.m. I can't believe I almost forgot.
I'm here for
No,
it.
don't worry. He'll be banning AMC and dodging me soon enough.
Oh my God.
All right. 5 p.m. Don't miss it. See you later.
Have a good Thanksgiving, y'all.